The case of Kenneth Anger, the Hollywood occultist. Now, Kenneth Anger, an underground filmmaker in 1960s Hollywood, known for his films like Fireworks and Scorpio Rising, as well as his book Hollywood Babylon, was a self-proclaimed occultist, drawing inspiration from Aleister Crowley's Thelema and exploring themes of transgression and the dark side of Hollywood. He was actually quite obsessed with Aleister Crowley, who infamously called himself the B666. Anger wasn't just a fan, he followed Crowley's rituals, studied his books, and conducted real summoning ceremonies. Now, one of his closest collaborators, Bobby Beausoleil, claimed Anger attempted to summon the demon Lucifer during one of their ritual film shoots in the desert. Things spiraled. Beausoleil would later become part of the Manson family and commit assassinations. Crazy connection, I know. Anger himself descended into a strange madness, reportedly speaking in tongues, destroying his own films, and claiming to be possessed by demonic forces he had invited in. Whether you see it as madness, coincidence, or proof of something darker, Anger's life was never the same after those rituals. Anger's work is celebrated for its artistic vision, its exploration of transgressive themes, and its connection to the history of counterculture and the occult. The Exorcism of Anna Eklund. Now, the girl who invited it in, Anna Eklund, which was actually a pseudonym for Emma Schmidt, was a young American woman in the early 20th century who reportedly became possessed after experimenting with occult practices encouraged by her aunt, who was said to be practicing witchcraft. Now, this is an urban legend. Her 1928 exorcism in Iowa is one of the most thoroughly documented in the Catholic Church history. She alleged, demonic possession and exorcism occurred over several decades, culminating in an extensive exorcism that lasted from August 18th to December 23rd, 1928 in Erling, Iowa. Now, Eklund was said to have exhibited symptoms, akin to possession beginning at age 14 and was 46 years old during her final exorcism by Father Theophilus Resinger, a Roman Catholic priest. Now, witnesses, claimed Anna levitated, spoke languages she had never learned, and exhibited unnatural strength. For 23 days, priests performed rites to banish what they said were multiple demons, including Beelzebub and Judas Iscariot. Now, according to records, Anna had tried to summon a spirit to communicate with her deceased mother. What she got was something else entirely. She survived, but never fully recovered. Her case was cited for decades as a warning against dabbling in summoning or spiritualism. Now, Eklund's case is considered by theology and paranormal scholars to be one of the most abundantly documented cases of possession in the 20th century, including a profile in a 1936 issue of Time magazine. The Charlie Charlie Challenge. In 2015, a viral game called the Charlie Charlie Challenge swept the internet. Teenagers everywhere were placing pencils on paper and calling on Charlie, a supposed Mexican demon or spirit. Now, this game / internet urban legend of sudden and inexplicable popularity surged to the top of the global social media charts after kicking around on the Spanish language internet for much of eternity. Now, as of me even saying this right now, hashtag Charlie Charlie Challenge has been tweeted more than 1.6 million times. More people are Googling Charlie Charlie than virtually any other news event. Now, while it's hard to pin down an exact country of origin, Charlie Charlie has a long history as a schoolyard game in the Spanish-speaking world. Traditionally, this version with the cross pencils was called the Juego de la Lapicera, a term that still turns up lots of creepy stuff on Google, and Charlie Charlie was a distinct game played with colored pencils. At some point in their internet and playground travels, the two games seem to have merged. In either case, both have always had a demonic or supernatural connotations. One site calls La Pecera the poor man's Ouija board. Now, most teens trying Charlie Charlie laughed it off as just harmless fun until one incident in the Dominican Republic. A group of students performed the challenge at school. One girl began screaming uncontrollably, claiming she couldn't move her body. Several Several others fainted or started vomiting. Paramedics were called. Local authorities, declared a temporary school shutdown, saying the children were suffering from mass, hysteria. But priests were brought in as well. A few of the children were never the same after that. Some refused to sleep indoors, claiming something was watching them. One even attempted to take their own life weeks later, saying, "Charlie won't let me go." It was easy to dismiss at first, but the deeper you dig, the more similar reports you find across Latin America during that period. The Demon of Loftus. Now, this is the visitor that never left. The history of Loftus Hall, a large mansion house that's located along the Hook Peninsula, goes back through the centuries. The original hall was built in 1350 by the Redmond family during the time of the Black Death. Now, it was known as Redmond Hall until the 1650s, when it was given to English planters, the Loftus family, and from then on was known as Loftus Hall. Now, Loftus Hall is rumored to be, Ireland's most haunted house. The large country house is built on the site where the original Redmond Hall was once located. People believe that the hall was visited by the devil himself, but his presence is not the only one that wanders the halls of this impressive building. In the 18th century, in Ireland's Loftus Hall, a noble family received a very mysterious visitor. A storm, brought a well-dressed man to their door. He was polite, very handsome, charming, but one night while playing cards, Lady Anne Tottenham dropped one of her cards on the floor, and when she looked under the table, she saw the man's feet were not human, but hooves. She screamed, of course. He vanished in a flash of fire and smoke. Now, the family believed he was a demon she had accidentally summoned during private, seances that she held out of grief for her passed on lover. Now, Lady Anne was never the same. She became violent, was locked in a room, and she actually passed away in isolation. Now, visitors still say her ghost and the energy of that entity remains. Now, Loftus Hall is considered one of the most haunted places in Europe. The building, which stands today, was heavily renovated between 1872 and 1879 in preparation for a visit from Her Majesty Queen Victoria. The visit, though, never happened, and the Loftus family were left with huge debt following the major work carried out on the building. The last of the surviving Loftus family passed away back in 1890, and the bankrupt estate was actually put up for sale. In 2011, the house was sold to its current owners, the Quigley family. Now, the family have secured the structure and are, regenerating the walled gardens, the courtyard, and house to ensure the future of the Loftus Halls for the next generations. The Diary of Jake McKinnon, a Reddit ritual that went terribly wrong. In 2018, a Reddit user under the handle MCK_Jake posted a series of updates in the r-no sleep community about a summoning ritual he claimed to be trying. It started off as fiction, or so it seemed. He said he was following a grimoire, that he bought on the dark web, trying to summon a demon named Turan. The first few posts were funny, but then the tone shifted. He claimed the lights in his apartment would flicker, objects would move on their own, and he just couldn't sleep. In one video, you could see a shadowy figure pass behind him. Now, the final post said, "I messed up. I didn't bind it. I didn't follow the rules. I don't know how to send it back." Jake McKinnon's account went dark after that. A user tried to track him down through IP logs and emails, only to find the address linked to a police report about a man that was found passed away in his apartment surrounded by occult symbols. His face was said to be frozen in a look of terror. Now, to this day, some people claim the entity that he named Turan has shown up, in other rituals since. Many people debated his story and claims, though, because according to Etruscan mythology, Turan is a goddess, not a demon. She's the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility, often associated with the Greek goddess Aphrodite. She is frequently depicted as a young winged girl, embodying the grace and allure that, the Etruscans kind of revered. Now, whatever the case is, the story is creepy and concerning, and to this day, no one can seem to get a hold of Jake and know about his whereabouts,
It's not super duper easy. You need a Ouija board, a magic mirror, or other dangerous items, so pay attention, folks. If you need a new bestie, all you need is a cup of salt, 6 scented candles, preferably lavender, lots of chalk, a box of matches, and you can't forget an offering. Now, this depends on the demons. Usually a couple of boxes of organic dark chocolate will do the trick. Start by choosing your summoning area. It could be your attic, your basement, a clearing in a deep dark forest, or an abandoned building. You can also choose a cemetery, but expect some ghosties, some ghouls, maybe a vampire. Cover your chosen summoning area in a large ring of salt and make sure there are no gaps. Using that chalk, draw a circle within the confines of the salt. Then draw an inverted pentagram in the circle. Make it big and expressive. And after all, you want to make sure you're impressing your future demon buddies. Place 5 of your candles at each point of your pentagram and place a 6th in the center. Light the candles with a match and place your offering in the center of the circle, next to that candle. Now recite the words Secula Secorulum, be my friend, over and over, about 6 times. Say it confidently and with conviction. And if you have a particular demon in mind for summoning, picture them in your head while chanting. If you've done this correctly, then you should see purple and red light emanating from the center of the summoning circle. Now at this point, introduce yourself, get to know them. Make sure that your demons know not to cause too much chaos while they're here. Once you have confirmed they're cool, you're gonna be safe, feel free to break the salt ring and invite them to your social gathering. Once you're done, return them to the summoning circle, rebuild the salt ring, and recite the words home sweet home, and they're gonna go back to their ring of hell. If you want a demon with more power, it's vital to work in a group. This should be made up of multiple powerful magicians channeling their collective energies into the creation of a portal. The more powerful summoners there are in a group, the greater the results. The power of the group will also determine how long the portal can remain active, since longer lasting portals allow more demonic forces to enter our plane of reality. Next up, the connection between spiritual planes of reality on our own is the most sensitive at 3 a.m. This is because the line between spirit and matter overlaps at this hour, thus making us more aware of spiritual forces which we'd otherwise not come in contact with. Time to start the ritual. Pretty simple, just pour gasoline or another flammable concoction on the ground, and if you're creating a new portal, you're gonna have to trace the outline of the area. But if it's already clearly marked, a straight line from one side to the other will do. Afterwards, it's time to surround the portal and begin to chant. Conjuro potentiae Lucifer, petefessio apporta ad inferos, et tua demones tensire, sic orantar mundi, and you say this over and over again. As this gets close to 30 repetitions, have the leader of the group approach the portal and light the fire. On the 60th repetition, all magicians should kneel on one knee, hands stretched, palms facing the flames from a safe distance, with energy from the hands directed at flames. Repeat the chant for 30 more repetitions in this position. On the 90th repetition, either the flames are going to soar higher and you're going to see the spirits, or maybe somebody's going to jump. You're going to feel the supernatural occurrences. Now, if somebody feels summoned to enter the portal at this point, it can be done while everybody else is channeling their energy into it. Everybody should remain kneeling, minus the 1 or 2 people that go through the portal, because it's vital that the portal remains open so that you can come back. Don't wander off too much while you're there, because if anybody's starting to falter, you could get trapped. Wouldn't be fun. The Conjuring Mirror. So this was something that originally belonged to a 45-year-old New Jersey man named Oliver Birnbaum, and it was used to practice a medieval ritual known as speculum, or mirror magic. He performed a lengthy incantation ritual known as a conjuring formula, inviting the spirit world to assist him in manipulating the future. So when he first started doing this, he didn't see a lot in the mirror. Maybe the movement of a couple of blurred forms, or quick little incidents that really didn't mean anything to him. But the more he concentrated his attention into the mirror, the more control Oliver gained, and ergo the more he could see. After performing this ritual obsessively for many months, he got to the point where all he had to do was state what he wanted to see and the desired image would appear, eventually being able to tune into the future whenever he wanted. He gained the ability to project people he didn't like into the mirror, singling them out for punishment or revenge. Eventually, Oliver neglected the part of the ritual where he had to pay homage to Satan, and as a result, the evil he proposed for others began to happen to him, and the spirits he turned loose on his enemies were now infesting his home. After about a week of torment, this man was so terrified that he called a Catholic official and was like, "Please send me anybody." He got the Warrens. When they got to his home, they met a man frightened out of his wits, and well, rightfully so. Doors were opening and closing by themselves. Every minute something would crash and break, or bounce off a wall and just smash. Ed Warren was able to reverse the ritual originally enacted by Oliver and bless the house, stopping the disturbance. And he took the mirror with him too. Emerging also from the case files of Ed and Lorraine Warren is that of the black lace veil. So after one of his public lectures, Ed was conversing with a couple that had been in the audience. They introduced themselves as Alan and Lonnie, and they'd come because Alan had suspicions about Lonnie being under some sort of occult influence. He's like, whenever Lonnie's angry, her features are changing into something that looks like a wolf, and her voice would be different. Like, not a voice that she could make on her own just doing an impression. Well, when Lorraine walked over to join the group, Lonnie experienced an episode of instantaneous possession and lunged, like almost to attack Lorraine. After about 10 minutes, this passed, and Lonnie was lucid enough to explain that she'd been dealing with memory loss, losing hours and days of her life, which is a symptom symptom that's kind of common in possession. Turns out she'd visited a store prominent in selling tools to help with witchcraft, bought a book on black arts, and performed a ritual for acquiring lovers. She wanted her boyfriend to fall in love with her, and this ritual involved the black lace veil, on top of which she placed a crown of goat horns before renouncing God and her baptism, along with swearing allegiance to Satan, finalizing the ritual by washing down the vow with a cup of animal life force. So a month after Lonnie performed the ritual, Alan began paying her the attention she wanted, making her entitled world perfect. But everything went sideways, and Ed was like, okay, we're gonna need an exorcism. So he made contact with a priest the next morning, who was able to come and assist with the procedure. After everything was said and done, the Warrens brought the black lace veil, the goat horns, the cup, and the conjuring book home with them, because, well, they didn't want repossession to happen. And finally, yep, Ouija boards count as demonic rituals, folks. Patty Donovan was simply a lonely girl, and she thought this little board was going to find her a friend, and it found her a manipulator. She spent months falling in love with a spirit she believed to be in love with her. She told it secrets about her everyday life. She was like emotionally dependent on this weird being. Well, on the evening of March 2nd of 1974, she was pleading with her boyfriend to manifest. And the next morning, her dad found the spark plug wires pulled out of his car, the rubber hose unfastened, and the fan belt was cut. And also, Patty was like, okay, I'm gonna go try my car. Well, the internal engine was completely disassembled. That week, other incidents of apparent vandalism occurred around the Donovan house. Oh, and Patty couldn't contact her invisible boyfriend anymore. Night after night after night, she tried to communicate, but the planchette would just slide over to goodbye. She had no idea that her ethereal boyfriend was a supernatural vandal that was targeting her. By the second week of March, material damage to the house and cars was so major that her dad complained to the police. By April, furniture was levitating, and by that there was a 250-pound dresser flinging itself around while flying erratically. Rocks were raining from the sky, pelting the house. Thankfully the police did see that one, but they had no answers. Finally, the family reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren. They got to Maine as quickly as they could, and they were like, whoa, what's going on? After a lengthy tour of the house, they conducted an interview with the entire family, and that's when they found out about the Ouija board. So then they reached out to the Catholic Church. They were like, please, we need to, get on with an exorcism. It took about a month, and the family experienced many more unexplainable horrors during that time. After the exorcism took place on May 2nd, the family was finally free from demonic torment, but they were left with over $5,000 in damages to the home, which would be like over 30 grand in today's money.
Number 5 on this list is the ritual to the other side. This is a ritual performed to let you experience a little bit of the demon world. Now, unlike some of the other demonic rituals on this list, it's relatively tame, and your life, it's not going to be at stake. However, the mental strain that it can have on you can be extremely costing. You're going to need a sizable mirror, enough that you can put both of your hands flat on it while still seeing your upper body. A completely pitch black room with absolutely no light whatsoever, a singular candle, but one that isn't too large and won't illuminate the whole room, just something where you can see yourself. Also, an alarm and somewhere to sleep. Now, after you have your items, go take a nap. You want to set your alarm for roughly 2 hours of sleep so that when you wake up, you are decently dazed and not fully aware. Right when you wake up, go to your room with your mirror and make it pitch black. Then light your candle and have it somewhere out of sight, just enough light that you can make out your face in the mirror. You want to place both hands on the mirror roughly shoulder width apart and start to stare at yourself. Focus on yourself. Your focus needs to be impeccable if you want this to work. Now start to alter your breathing. A slow breathe in and a longer exhale. You want your mind and your body to go completely blank and feel as if they're exiting your body. If you're doing all of this properly, then you should start to feel subtle vibrations in your hands that ring throughout your arms. This should be followed by your face starting to distort as if you were hallucinating. Now is when the real images start though. People have reported seeing flashes of loved ones who have died where they're supposed to be standing in the mirror, or have their own bodies start to morph into a demon. Sounds and voices will begin to ring throughout the supposedly silent room, and in extreme cases, your entire room will morph itself into a fiery hell. You have now calmed your mind to a state where it is capable of comprehending the demon realm, and you are in it. Now, it's relatively easy to snap out of this place and no harm will come to you, but that's not the case for some people. This experience can be extremely jarring and haunt people for the rest of their lives. In very rare cases, people who have tried this have descended into a deep depression or even madness. I can only imagine that knowing what is on the other side and what could be potentially waiting for us is a very scary place to be. Sometimes, guys, Ignorance truly is bliss. Number 4 on this list is a game called the Devil's Game. In this ritual, you will basically be summoning the devil, and summoning the devil can be extremely dangerous. To perform the Devil's Game, you will need a few items. A can of salt, 7 candles, red or white is preferred, a lighter or match to light those candles, some red string, it could be rope or yarn if that's what you have, but the color has to be red. You'll also need a full-length mirror. Mirrors are pretty common in these rituals, by the way. And lastly, this must be done in a church, and it must be done at midnight when you do it. Also, you are not allowed to have anything electronic or any religious paraphernalia that may help you, like holy water. Now take your salt and surround the mirror on the ground. Then wrap your mirror with the red string. Take your candles and light them and space them out around the mirror as well. All of these things are actually to help protect you from the devil. The summoning you still have to do. To summon the devil, you actually have to do something sacrilegious in the church. This could be anything, but I think the easiest would be some sort of vandalism. Do that and then close all the doors to the room and kill the lights so that you're only lit by the candles. Close your eyes now and count to 10 with the distinct image of the devil in your mind. After you reach 10, open them. You should be staring directly at the devil in the mirror in place of yourself. Now, the devil didn't come all of this way just to look at you. He wants to play. And the game is a simple question and answer game. If you get something right, he'll answer your questions truthfully, but it's not that easy. This is the devil, and the questions that he asks will be specifically made to stump you. In fact, the questions that he asks will be ones that you're never 100% sure that you know the answer to, and therefore you can never be 100% sure if he is telling the truth to you or a lie when he answers your questions. So when you ask him, how am I gonna die? And he answers with, you're gonna get hit by a bus, is that the truth? Or is that a lie? You're never gonna know, and for the rest of your life, you will most likely be petrified of buses. Occasionally, he will also dare you to do something. Now, this is interesting because if you complete the dare, you will know for certain that the next thing you ask him will be true. If you do the dare, you could ask him next week's winning lottery numbers and he'd have to tell you the truth. But the dare he gives you, it's not gonna be pleasant. Self-harm. Hurting those that you love, completely going against any morals that you thought you had, those are all completely on the table. You could stand to gain a lot from this game, however you could also stand to lose a lot or gain absolutely nothing at all, just a bunch of paranoia. Anytime you summon the devil, it's a bad idea, and the Devil's Game is no different. Number 3 on this list is Veronica's Game. Now, Veronica's Game is a demonic ritual that will summon Veronica, a demon girl, who died playing a very similar game many years ago. To get this demon's attention, you will need a few items. A mirror, again, a clock, a quiet room, a candle. This ritual will also require you to perform it at midnight, just like the other ones. Have the mirror set up in your quiet room so that it's at eye level with you. At exactly midnight, light the candle and stare into the mirror. Veronica. Veronica. You have to repeat her name 9 times, staring at yourself in the mirror. After you have done so, extinguish the candle and leave the room. Now, why is this called a game? I don't really understand, because there's really nothing fun about it at all. She's with you now. The demon Veronica is now there with you, and whenever you are by yourself, you will feel her presence. You have just awoken a demon who doesn't want to be awake right now, and she's going to haunt you. You'll feel the temperature start to drop whenever you're by yourself. You may hear sounds that you can't identify or sense movement that you don't understand. It's said that if you ever make fun of Veronica in any way, then that's going to be the last thing that you do. This demon supposedly carries around a pair of scissors at all times and will use them on you if she ever feels that you're taunting her. This demonic ritual should absolutely never be performed because you stand absolutely nothing to gain and potentially your life to lose. Number 2 on this list is a ritual performed by a bunch of high school students in 1986. Now, this ritual has less to do about the otherworldly things that you may summon and more to do with the fact that this is just wrong and you shouldn't ever do this. 12 high school students were linked to a demonic ritual with the goal of praising Satan and cleansing the world of what Satan or these students may qualify as unworthy. These students had found an abandoned house that they painted black and used that as their main base of operations. They painted it black as apparently a way of keeping the badness in and the goodness out. It was here that they had been performing several demonic rituals for months. One of their rituals, though, culminated on the witch's Sabbath. They had been preparing for this day for quite a while, drawing blood circles in their abandoned home, and speaking various incantations to please their devilish lord. The final act, though, involved a sacrifice. On the witch's Sabbath, one of the 12 high school students, a 15-year-old, snuck into an older student's bedroom with a shotgun and used him for the sacrifice. Yeah, this entry gets kinda real. This was their demonic sacrifice meant to appease the devil. Now, I can't say for certain whether the actual ritual worked because there's currently no knowledge on that. But what I do know is that the 15-year-old and those involved went to jail for a very long period of time. I also know that a 17-year-old boy who had absolutely nothing to do with anything died. Like I said, this one on the list is less about what you may summon and the consequences with that, but more about the fact that you should just never do this. And the fact that people thought this was a good idea, it's just complete insanity. Number 1 on this list is a ritual performed by 2 high school students, Mike and Sid. Now, although Mike and Sid kind of sounds like a great name for a sitcom or like a really good cop show, these guys get a little bit darker than that. Longtime high school friends and big fans of the horror movie genre in general, one evening they stumble upon a ritual on a deep part of the internet. The goal is to summon a demon. Even though the boys have a deep respect for demons and don't want to mess around, it's promised online that this demon will be thankful for being summoned and won't cause you any harm. What you need for this ritual is a frog and a specific incantation in a language called Enochian. I couldn't find the specific incantation that the boys used, and frankly, I mean, it's probably a good thing that this information is difficult to locate. Grab your frog by its hind legs. This is gonna be difficult because it has to still be alive when you are doing this. Stick it directly into sunlight and begin to speak your Enochian incantation. Now, I kinda hate this next part because I love animals, but as you're speaking your hex, kill the frog. Let the blood of the frog drop to the ground. If your spell is working, then you will notice pretty rapidly that the frog itself will start to wither up and shrink. Now, it's said that this should summon a demon in front of you. However, when the boys did this, that's not what happened. Sid was watching as Mike uttered the final words to their ritual. After it was done, Mike stood there for a moment, silently, with the dead, withered up frog in his hands, until he twisted his head 180 degrees backwards and stared directly at Sid with his eyes rolled completely back in his head. Then, without warning, he lunged after Sid in a fully unnatural, inhuman way, spitting and cursing as he did. Sid dodged him and ran out of the house as fast as he could, not stopping for 10 whole minutes. After an hour of waiting and regaining his courage, he carefully made his way back to go check on his friend. Mike was lying completely naked with scratches all over his body, unconscious in the middle of the basement. When he woke up, he had absolutely no memory of the entire incident at all and doesn't know how he got there.
Number 5, Versailles. So the year was the ladies got a little bit lost searching for the chateau. Eleanor Jourdain, to be precise, were on holiday in France. They were both teachers at St. Hugh's College in Oxford and had set out to see the vast palace of Versailles, the center of political power in France until the French Revolution in 1789. They turned to visit Le Petit Trianon, a small chateau on the grounds given to Marie Antoinette, as a private retreat for her personal use. Gosh, can somebody give me a castle one of these days? The ladies got a little bit lost searching for the chateau, and it was during this interlude that they made history, even if only in some small way. They encountered several people in 1789 period attire, carrying out period-appropriate activities, and passed a handful of structures that had not existed since that time. Their unexpected visit to 112 years in the past culminated with an encounter with Marie Antoinette herself, sketching on the grounds of her chateau. Mrs. Jourdain wrote later that everything suddenly looked unnatural and unpleasant. Even the trees seemed to become flat and lifeless, like wood worked in tapestry. There were no effects of light and shade, and no wind stirred the trees. They had reached the edge of a wood, close to the Temple de l'Amour, and came across a man seated beside a garden kiosk, wearing a cloak and a large shady hat. According to Moberly, his appearance was most repulsive, and Jourdain noted that the man slowly turned his face, which was marked by smallpox, and observed that his complexion was very dark. The expression was evil and yet unseeing, and though she did not feel that he was looking particularly at them, she felt a repugnance to going past him. A man later described as tall, with large dark eyes and crisp curling black hair under a large sombrero hat came up to them and showed them the way to Le Petit Trianon. After crossing a bridge, they reached the gardens in front of the palace, and Moberly noticed a lady sketching on the grass who looked directly at them. She later described what she saw in great detail. The lady was wearing a light summer dress, on her head was a shady white hat, and she had lots of fair hair. So, okay, not me. Moberly thought she was a tourist at first, but the dress appeared to be old-fashioned, and it dawned on her that this was Marie Antoinette herself. After this, they were directed around to the entrance and joined a party of other visitors. The strange feelings and visions of the past had vanished. It was many months before the woman told of their strange encounters. Visiting Versailles sometimes later, the women were not able to find the landmarks that they had noticed during the incident. During their research, they thought they recognized the man by the kiosks as the Comte de Vaudreuil, a friend of Marie Antoinette, who herself had been thought to have been seen by Moberly, as I described. Within months, they published their account in a book called An Adventure, later published as The Ghosts of Trianon, and they were both respected academics who, didn't really want bizarre publicity, so they published it under pseudonyms, which I totally respect. And this is what, solidified the validity of this tale for me. They just wanted the truth to be out there without the fame. Their experience became known as the Versailles time slip, the Ghost of Trianon, or the Moberly Jourdain incident, and it has intrigued researchers, historians, and enthusiasts of the paranormal ever since, myself included. No one's been able to explain what they saw. I believe both of them had abilities that most of us don't tap into, and they just wanted answers. Number 4, Drem, Scotland. So we're going back to 1935 when this man was a wing commander, Sir Victor Goddard to be specific. He was instructed to inspect an inactive airbase located in Drem, near Edinburgh in Scotland. While flying over it, Sir Goddard found the airbase to be in a poor state, with cattle grazing on the wild grass that had now forced its way through the tarmac, and the entire place was just in complete shambles. Later on, while flying his plane, he got into a little bit of trouble thanks to the really bad weather conditions, and to avoid an accident, he decided to fly back to the abandoned airbase till the weather cleared out, just a smidge, for safety. As he approached the airbase though, the torrential rain oddly and very abruptly gave way to bright sunshine, when Sir Victor noticed that the airbase was not only in mint condition, but in use. He spotted mechanics wearing blue overalls working on the yellow planes parked on the runway, but he was unable to recognize a single aircraft on the base. There was no way the place could have gone from decrepit to fully renovated and operational in half an afternoon. And more importantly, these guys weren't wearing the khaki-colored uniforms that were a norm at the time. Also, the Air Force painted all of their planes in silver, not yellow. So he was completely baffled by who knows what was going on, and he got the shock of his life 4 years later when he happened to visit Drem again. And this time he saw everything he saw 4 years back in 1935. We're talking the same people in blue overalls servicing yellow planes, and he even found that plane and he could recognize it now. It was a Miles Magister. So my theory is that he accidentally flew into a parallel universe portal where time was ahead of us. Hey, I've said stranger things on here. Number 3, Northwest Florida. This tale comes from Dylan Smith, a now 20-something-year-old man who grew up in Northwest Florida. I know, obvious. It was a day when he, his cousin, and his aunt were all outside on the front porch playing, when 2 teenagers approached the group and asked if they wanted to see a castle. Yes please. Dylan knew this was bad news, but his cousin had to go see it, so they both agreed to follow. Ah yes, the good old following the leader approach. The crew went into the woods and walked along a trail for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only like 20 minutes away. And what do you know? There was indeed this beautiful, gleaming, majestic castle in the distance, looking like something you'd see in the movies. He described it as, this place was made of heaven. It literally shined as if the group had entered a city of wealth. The younglings gave each other an excited look and sprinted home to tell their parents. The teenagers stayed behind though. They never chased or followed the runners, which is weird, but yeah, alrighty. The young duo told Dylan's mom about their adventures the moment they got home, and well, she reacted how you'd expect a mom to react. Hey mom, we followed a group of strange teenagers into the forest and found a castle. How cool is that? I know if I ever said that to my mom, I would have been grounded for eternity. And I feel like I was grounded most of high school anyways for nonsense that didn't really matter, as it was. The mom in this case rightfully freaked out and told the 2 younglings that their time playing outside was over for the day. Now Dylan has elaborated that his mom was also a strict mom, the type to never let him out of her sight for longer than a minute. And apparently even the door to the front porch was open, so there was no way 2 teenagers could have just actually taken the younglings into the wood, let alone anywhere without one of their parents seeing. It's been 20 years since this universe visit, and Dylan has spoken to his mom and his family about this multiple times over the years, and no conclusions have been reached otherwise. There's no church or anything nearby that the duo could have mistaken to be a castle, and Dylan has thoroughly explored the area as an adult in exasperation. He remembers the bad feeling in his gut, but also because he knew better than to follow strangers. But with that being said, the teenagers also just seemed like people who were genuinely excited about their discovery of a castle and wanted to show somebody else. Dylan is positive that the teens stayed at the castle and he never saw them again. Gosh, I wish I had discovered a castle when I was running through the forest when I was little. I think the scariest thing I found was dog poop that I probably lied to my friends was bear poop to scare them. Hey, what can I say? Northern Ontario is kind of boring. Number 2, Hocking Hills. This tale takes place in September of 2008 and happened to a young man named Tyler and his friend Sierra when they decided to spend a day at, a park in Ohio named, yep, you guessed it, Hocking Hills. He described the day as a nice warm late summer day, and they decided to make a full day drive and make a hike. Hocking Hills is apparently well known for several walking trails, a cave or two, and several waterfalls and running water / creek areas, so a good nature area. They started a walk at random and found that one of the trails had been washed out, so they had to take another path which forced them to cross a road, and on the other side was a tall fire lookout ranger station, which doubled as a fire tower. The duo had seen a lot of people out walking that day, and a few hikers and backpackers had passed by on their treks, up until that point. They played with their phones a bit on the way to show each other, some pictures from a different outing, and noted it was roughly after like noon when they came out of the woods and walked across the road. It was then that they noticed that there was caution tape all over the fire tower, and like a pungent smell in the air, which they couldn't really identify. Also, the windows on top of the tower appeared to be taped up and grimy, and there was flies all over the area. Not fun. They walked past it, commenting on how odd it was, and continued down a seemingly new trail they hadn't seen on a previous walk in the area. The trail took them past the fire tower and then cut into the woodlands. As they walked into the forest, they took notice that no one seemed to be around. They also described feeling chilly without explanation, and that's where I would have called it a day, since it's usually a sign of bad stuff to come. Once again, that day had been very warm, as they had both worn very cool clothing, and when they entered the forest, it began to feel very cool. Much cooler than they expected, and they were both shivering as they felt the temperature drop. As they continued on, Sierra repeatedly pointed out that it was getting darker than it should have been, and they looked around and were only able to find trees as far as the eye could see, and there should have been like a forest edge somewhere in the area, since it wasn't really that big, but aside from some hills and tall pine trees, there wasn't really like an ending to the woods like there should have been. She took out her phone to use her GPS because she instinctively felt lost, but her battery was nearly gone, whereas Tyler's had no signal, the battery was also near dead, and was glitching to the point where even the time wasn't showing. It was only then, as the light grew dimmer as they continued on, that Tyler noticed it was very silent. Their footsteps were echoing, the leaves, grass, twigs, and breathing was also echoing. With nowhere left to go but ahead, the duo continued forward, going down a small hill on the trail and back up when it got darker. Like, at this point, the world seemed to have gone from shadowy to near twilight darkness. That's not a vampire joke, I promise. Sierra grabbed Tyler's arm and started freaking out about how weird it got. And then the air grew chillier, and they had a feeling of something really wrong. They both took off running, looking for any kind of exit, and for some odd reason, they never really thought to turn around. As they ran, they could hear their steps echoing off of the areas, as things just felt like they grew more and more gloomy. Eventually, ahead of the duo, down a small hill and back up on the other side, they could see two large bushes on either side, kind of like a trail gate. They made a mad dash for the bushes, and just as they pushed through the plants, something odd happened. They were nearly blinded by light as sound and warmth returned all at once. They stood at the edge of a place known as Old Man's Cave, and turned around to see the bushes were the same, but the area was different, brighter, not silent, and finally, warm. Both of them took out their phones, and the time had finally updated, as it was now 4 p.m. The normal trail would have only taken like an hour to walk fully, so it was a loss of 3 full hours. Later, when they were walking past the trail where the fire tower was located, they noticed it was normal looking, and there was a blonde-haired young lady with her hair in a ponytail climbing the steps. The windows were not taped and very clean, and no pungent smell. Jeepers. Number 1, Northern Ontario. For once, I didn't have to completely research a story. I just had to ask a friend. They were a little cagey with the exact town this took place in, so I'll let y'all use your imagination. My buddy Patrick's place was about 1.5 kilometers away from the nearest neighborhood, since his mom intentionally picked that house due to, the lack of neighbors. I can't say I blame her. It was tucked away on a back road with the woods surrounding it. Every now and again, he liked to take walks with his little brother, who at the time was about 13. On this particular night, they headed up the road and decided to try and find a new path through a new clearing that they hadn't discovered yet, when they noticed something a little shocking. Just off the road that led almost directly to the neighborhood, there was a brand new paved road. For reference, every road in that part of town was a gravel road, so seeing an out-of-place paved road was pretty unusual. They stared at it for a while, and came to the conclusion that it must have been made within the last few days due to the modern but slow growth of the town. However, they had no explanation for how they did it so fast. So you know what, guys being guys, they decided to explore it for a bit, and as soon as they set foot on the road, the air became notably colder, at least by 5 degrees. The road itself was made of black pavement, but had no dividing lines, and it was surrounded by some thick red trees that resembled redwoods, but they were too short and didn't really make sense for a region that is mostly populated by birch trees. Trust me, I climbed enough. They walked on the road for around 5 kilometers until they decided to head back due to it getting kind of dark out. When they got off the road, they felt the temperature go back up, and both boys agreed to return to explore more during daylight hours. Good. Very good on you. At roughly noon the following day, they set back out to explore this place, only to discover that the entire road was missing. Specifically, the trees that were cleared to make it had apparently grown back, with no sign of the redwood-like trees. They, even began to explore the woods once more, but only to find no sign that this ever existed. When they got home and asked their parents about it, they said they knew nothing about any new roadwork being done. Honestly, that would have been my biggest red flag as someone who used to live on the worst road in my town. Roadwork is never speedy, trust me, especially not in Northern Ontario. In the 1950s, Indiana local Jim Jones Jones founded a church that he claimed promoted socialism and equality with religious elements of Christianity. Initially, he wasn't much more than a charismatic hustler who faked faith healings by having audience plants pull chicken livers out of congregants' mouths, but as the years progressed, he demanded more and more of his followers. In the early 1970s, he moved his group to California and set them up in a commune-like settlement in Redwood Valley. After he established several locations throughout the state, including its main headquarters in San Francisco, the temple forged ties with many left-wing political figures and claimed to have like 2,000 members. Granted, it might have been more like 3 to 5. Jones eventually came to believe that nuclear war was imminent and moved his followers again to the South American country of Guyana, because he thought this would be outside the potential danger zone. So the group lived there for several years as the People's Temple Agricultural Project. But after former members started speaking out against the church, San Francisco Congressman Leo Ryan decided to travel there to investigate claims of harm. During his visit, a number of temple members were like, "Hey, can we leave with you?" And they accompanied him to the local airstrip at Port Kituma. There, they were intercepted by self-styled temple security guards who opened fire on the group, killing the congressman, 3 journalists, and one of the defectors, as well as injuring 9 others, including Ryan's aide, Jackie Spire. The video we have for you today is a couple of seconds of the incident that were captured on video by NBC cameraman Bob Brown, one of the journalists who sadly passed away in the attack. And this was right before the event we all know. That evening in Jonestown, Jones ordered his congregation to drink a concoction of poison-laced, grape-flavored Flavorate. Yeah, this is where we all got the phrase drinking the Kool-Aid, but it wasn't Kool-Aid. All in all, 918 people died, including 4 folks that died at the temple headquarters that night in the capital of Georgetown. Oh, and side note, surviving temple members of the mass death in the US announced their fears of being targeted by a hit squad composed of survivors, because, yeah, they were terrified. Similarly, in 1979, the Associated Press reported a U.S. congressional aides claim that there were 120 white, brainwashed professional killers out from Jonestown awaiting the trigger words to pick up their hit. Temple insider Michael Prokes, who had been ordered to deliver a suitcase which contained temple funds, which were supposed to be transferred to the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, took his own life in March of 1979. 4 months after the incident. In the days leading up to his death, Michael sent notes to several people, together with a 30-page statement he had written about the temple. He had arranged for a press conference in a Modesto, California motel room, during which he read a statement to the 8 reporters who attended, before excusing himself, entering a restroom, and sadly taking his life. A Canadian nature lover's attempt to capture wildlife on camera kind of backfired in a terrifying way after she accidentally documented what appeared to be nude witches eating a carcass at night, right by her house. She said, "I don't know what the heck was up with that." This was Cornea Stanhope. She told the news outlet because she was like, "What's going on?" She's like, "It really freaked us out. It's not something you see every day." Yeah, no kidding. Now, the Powell River local had reportedly been riding one of her horses one day when she came across a dead deer in her garden. And while most folks might have been like, "Okay, gross, let's just get rid of it," the woman and her father decided to set up a camera to see if the carcass would attract any critters at night. Because why not? So she got there the next day and Bob said, "Hey, there's nude people on the camera." And she's like, "Okay, you're kidding, right?" She called a bull, and then he was like, "Nope, here's the photos." So these bone-chilling photos, taken just after sunset, showed 2 disheveled-looking women with long black hair that obscured their faces, squatting over this dead deer and appearing to dine on its remains. The wicked, hungry pair are completely in the nude, except for what looks like loincloths over their nether regions in the found footage horror film-esque moment. Now, the woman said it looks like they have wigs on because one woman might have blonde hair underneath, but you can't really tell from the photos. And you can see like there was the hoof that was brought right up to her mouth. Our poor witness said she wasn't sure if these so-called witches of Beastwick were kissing it, smelling it, or eating it, but was nonetheless sickened by the ritual, given the amount of bacteria that was possibly on the decaying carcass. Also, she was especially creeped out because the impromptu cuddling session occurred only 2 minutes away from her house. And she was concerned about these women messing with her horses at night, because apparently the horses get really spooked and really unnerved around that specific area. So at first, our witness thought like she was imagining things. Maybe it's something nothing. Social media seemed pretty convinced that the Canadian had witnessed witches, a local cult, or some other malevolent entity performing a demonic ritual. Somebody was like, "This is actually terrifying." Somebody else was like, "That's an S-Walker. They look human, so you come up to them, and once you do, you're gone." Another person was like, "That's basically a walking demon from hell. If you hear screaming, stay inside, get a weapon, leave it alone." and a lot of folks were like, this is a demonic cult, which means stay away, folks. American professional boxer Ryan Garcia alleged once upon a time that Bohemian Grove, a place rumored to exist in the north of San Francisco, is very much real and is an elite club where he once witnessed some really heinous stuff. He claimed this while he was live on the app formerly known as Twitter with Andrew Tate on March 5 of 2024. Now, in the wake of his allegations, there was a video that went viral online that showed a satanic ritual. So this video was allegedly originally leaked in the year 2000 by prominent conspiracy theorist and radio show host Alex Jones, who allegedly infiltrated the Bohemian Grove around the same time after being denied entry multiple times. While the visual is a little hazy, audio is not the best, some kind of ritual was ongoing. There was fireworks, there was cloaked priests, and well, we've got all those speculations of alleged satanic ceremonies, and that's giving cult vibes. Additionally, Alex Jones's interview on the Joe Rogan Experience has also gone viral, where he claims that when he trespassed on the Grove a couple decades back, he saw effigies being burnt in front of a large owl shrine, which only further fuels the alleged satanic cult ritual speculation. Well, the Bohemian Club website obviously denies the claims of secret and illegal affairs going on in the area, or technically even its existence. In a 2011 article, the Washington Post revealed that the members of the Manhattan Project met there regularly in the 1940s. That's enough proof for me. A mysterious snippet of footage showing people wearing black robes making an alleged human sacrifice in front of a statue at the European Organization for Nuclear Research campus was posted on YouTube back in 2016 to much debate. While some folks were quick to say, hey, it's fake, this was staged, it has been confirmed that the video was captured at the campus. It is believed that these cloaked figures are researchers performing a satanic sacrifice, just for reasons. And by the way, this area is a highly protected, restricted area with a lot of security gates and security cameras. And another mysterious piece of information is that the man who was filming the incident, even though he was freaking out because he was seeing all this weird stuff, his reflection shows that he's wearing a cloak similar to everybody else. So maybe he was a new initiate who got cold feet? And finally for today, back in 2021, Australia's ABC network was playing a routine news telecast when the anchor was taken by surprise as an unexpected satanic clip played during a switch of visuals. The anchor, Yvonne Young, was presenting a story about Queensland's proposal to make killing of police horses or dogs a criminal offense. Rightfully so. But her narration was visually cut by a frame of 3 officers walking down and then pans back at her. You know, typical stuff. However, a couple of seconds later, her narration once again gets interrupted by a change of visuals, but this time the network played a satanic ritual on screen during the live telecast. In those couple of seconds, a man can be seen standing in a black robe. Another person is seen standing beside the robe-clad person, and then there's somebody else sitting next to a keyboard. Oh, and by the way, there's also an upside-down cross in one corner of the room. The whole clip of the satanic ritual played for only a couple of seconds, but was caught by another media house. The man in the black robe can also be heard saying, "Hail Satan!" So the producers realized the mistake, immediately cut the feed, brought the anchor back on screen, and she stayed silent for a couple of seconds and then quickly segued into another story. So a lot of folks believe that these people from the visual were members of the Noosa Temple of Satan that were protesting against Queensland's education department regarding religious instruction classes in schools. Meanwhile, the temple themselves retweeted the clip with the caption, "Satan works in mysterious ways."
First, let's talk about the case of Roland Doe, also known as Robbie Mannheim. Now, in 1949, this 14-year-old boy from Maryland became the inspiration for William Peter Blatty's widely popular novel, The Exorcist. Roland had been experimenting with a Ouija board, trying to contact spirits when he allegedly became possessed by a malevolent entity. Now, the events that followed were nothing short of terrifying. Roland's family reported strange noises, furniture moving on its own, and unexplained events. The boy himself would go into trances, speaking in a very deep, frightening voice and exhibiting supernatural strength. Now, the Catholic Church eventually intervened, performing a series of exorcisms on Roland. The rituals were said to be so intense that they left the boy shaken and traumatized. In mid 1949, several newspaper articles printed anonymous reports of the alleged possession and exorcism. The source for these reports is thought to be the family's former pastor, Luther Miles Schultz, and according to one account, a total of 48 people witnessed this exorcism. According to author Thomas B. Allen, Father Walter was one of the last surviving eyewitnesses of the events and participated in the exorcism. Allen wrote that a diary kept by attending priest Father Raymond J. Bishop detailed the exorcism performed on Roland Doe. Now, speaking in 2013, Allen emphasized that definitive proof that the boy known only as Robbie was possessed by malevolent spirits is unattainable. Now, according to Allen, Halloran also expressed his skepticism about potential paranormal events before his death. When asked in an interview to make a statement verifying that the boy had actually been demonically possessed, Halloran responded saying, "No, I can't go on record. I never made an absolute statement about the things because I didn't feel I was qualified." This exorcism case inspired the novel, which in turn was adapted into the 1973 horror film of the same title, The Exorcist. The case also inspired the 2000 movie, Possessed, which is said to be closer to the story in Allen's book. A documentary was made of the case titled In the Grip of Evil. While the exact details of the events are still disputed, one thing is very clear. Roland's experimentation with spirit summoning had devastating consequences. Another case that comes to mind is that of the Perron family. In January of 1971, Roger and Carolyn Perron moved into a 14-room farmhouse in Rhode Island with their 5 daughters, only to discover that it was haunted by an evil spirit. It started very small. The family reported, all manners of paranormal activity, from unexplained noises and movements to physical attacks. Carolyn would notice that the broom went missing or seemed to move from one place to the next by itself. She could hear the sound of something scraping against the kettle in the kitchen when no one was even in there. She'd find small piles of dirt in the center of a freshly cleaned kitchen. Their daughters would also say that they would notice spirits around the house and that they seemed angry. As the haunting, intensified, the parents sought the help of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. Now, the Warrens, who were also involved in the Amityville horror case, believed that the spirit was the ghost of a witch who had been slaughtered on the property. The Warrens attempted to perform a cleansing ritual to rid the house of the malevolent entity, but however, the ritual was said to have awakened the spirit instead, making it even more aggressive. Now, the parents eventually fled the house, unable, of course, to cope with the intense paranormal activity. When the movie, The Conjuring, was released in 2013, it was met with critical acclaim. Critics everywhere praised it for its, all too very realistic portrayal of the demonic haunting of the innocent family in Rhode Island. Most viewers assumed that the movie was, nothing but the wild imagination of director James Wan. However, the true story of The Conjuring is actually rooted in the horrifying true experience of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed Warren was a World War II veteran and a former police officer who became a self-professed demonologist after studying the subject on his own. His wife Lorraine claimed to be a clairvoyant and medium who was capable of communicating with, the demons that Ed discovered. And in 1952, Ed and Lorraine founded the New England Society for Psychic Research, the oldest ghost hunting group in New England. They quickly gained notoriety as respected paranormal investigators after their initial investigation of the Amityville hauntings. Although the movies seem, over-dramatized and impossible to believe, the Warrens maintain that all of the events depicted actually transpired. Though Ed passed away sadly in 2006, Lorraine was a consultant on the film and claims that she didn't let the directors take any more dramatic license than was absolutely necessary. Last on my list to talk about is a well-documented case, is that of LaToya Ammons, now an American woman who, along with her 3 children, experienced a series of terrifying paranormal events after conducting a Ouija board seance in their Gary, Indiana home. Shortly after, she began to experience strange occurrences, including hearing strange noises, seeing shadowy figures, and feeling a very intense, unsettling presence. She said she heard footsteps in the basement and doors opening and closing on their own. Desperate for answers, LaToya turned turned to a Ouija board, hoping to communicate with whatever entity was responsible for the haunting. She gathered her family and conducted a seance, asking, the spirit to reveal itself. According to LaToya, the entity responded, identifying itself as Zozo, a malicious spirit known for its dark and very sinister nature. LaToya and her family were initially, skeptical, of course, but as, the entity began to manifest itself, they realized they had made a very grave mistake. The entity Zozo began to wreak havoc on the family, causing physical attacks, unexplained noises. The family reported finding strange symbols etched into the walls and experiencing very intense, unexplained cold spots throughout the house. As the haunting intensified, LaToya and her family became convinced that they had summoned a very evil spirit and was determined to destroy them. The family reached out to their doctor on April 19, 2012, when he visited the house during, the supposed haunting. He actually noted that their behavior was just delusional. Someone from his office contacted the police and the children were taken to the hospital. The DCS actually initially believed that the children were just performing for their mother. In other words, making it all up for attention. But that wasn't true, and it's even alleged that her 9-year-old son was seen walking backwards up the wall in the presence of a family case manager as well as a hospital nurse. So once that happened, it really debunked that whole theory that they were making it up. The nurse made a statement that said, he walked up the wall, flipped over, and just stood there. There's no way he could have done that. The police captain named Charles Austin said it was the strangest story he ever heard and admitted that at first he thought the family was making it up in an attempt to just make money. But after several visits to their home and interviews with witnesses, he simply said, "I am a believer." Campbell says she remembers telling her daughter, "We need help. We need to talk to someone who knows how to deal with it." And so desperate for help, they turned to a local paranormal investigator who confirmed that the entity was indeed Zozo, a spirit that's known for its very dark and malevolent nature. Now, the family eventually fled their home, unable to cope, of course, with the intense paranormal activity. LaToya has since spoken publicly about her experiences, warning others of the dangers of using Ouija boards and summoning spirits. In 2024, Netflix released a movie called The Deliverance, which is said to be based on this exact case. The movie begins with a title card that reads, "The following story is inspired by true events." So if this has intrigued you, go give that a watch. And in 2014, a man named Zach Bargains actually purchased the house for $35,000 and demolished it in January of 2016 after filming a documentary in it titled The Demon House, which was released in 2018. So that's another one you can go watch. Now, these stories illustrate the potential dangers of spirit summoning.
In 5th place, we have a North American ritual. Well, I'm about to talk about rituals in detail. I've left out some steps for safety reasons. If you decide to try and use the rituals, please let me know in the comments what happens. I do not recommend trying to open a portal, especially in our current climate. Seriously, as a Canadian, I've choked on enough forest fire smoke this year. But since this is what y'all want, allow me to begin. For starters, in order to open a powerful portal to hell, it's vital to work in a group, which should be made up of multiple powerful magicians channeling their collective energies into the creation of the portal. The more powerful the summoners there are in a group, the greater the results. Now, the power of the group will also determine how long the portal can remain active, since longer lasting portals allow more demonic forces to enter our plane of reality. Secondly, one must find a suitable area for performing the ritual, ideally in a rural location. The area should be quiet and desolate, free of distractions or unnatural channels of energy. Rooms that are surrounded by nature are the best setting, since it's quite helpful to have a frame for the portal. There are also energy centers from ancient times scattered across the globe that can provide a, tenfold or more of magical energy than a group would be able to manifest on its own. I'm not giving examples there. That's where you've got to do your own research. Next up, the connection between spiritual planes of reality and our own is the most sensitive at 3 a.m. The line between spirit and matter overlaps at this hour, thus making us more aware of the spiritual forces which we'd otherwise not come in contact with. I hope you're a night owl, because I am certainly not these days. One must dress also appropriately for the summoning. Well, there's no high school level dress code. Clothing worn should be simple, uniform, and if you own a dark or red magician's robe, that would be ideal. All folks involved should be dressed the same, but there are 2 variations where 2 exceptions are accepted. The first of the 2 exceptions in regards to colors may be the 1 or 2 magicians who plan on entering the portal. The other exception may be the leader of the group, who will also light the fire. Alrighty, now that that's out of the way, it's time to start the ritual. Pretty simple, just pour gasoline or another flammable concoction on the ground. If you're creating a new portal, you'll have to trace the outline of the area, but if the portal is already clearly marked, a straight line from side to side will do. Afterwards, time to surround the portal and begin to chant Conjuro potentiae Lucifer, Patefacio a porta ad inferos, et tua diamond transare, sic urantar mundi. I promise, I got through that without stumbling. As the 30th repetition approaches, have the leader of the group approach the portal and light the fire. On the 60th repetition, all the magicians should kneel on one knee, hands stretched, palms facing the flames from a safe distance, with energy from the hands directed at the flames. Repeat the chant for 30 more repetitions in that position. I couldn't. My knees absolutely could not. But on the 90th repetition, either the flame will soar higher and spirits visible to all or some members of the group will jump out of the flames, or another supernatural occurrence will be felt. If one of the members of the group feels summoned to enter the portal at this point, it can be done while the remaining magicians are channeling their energy into it. So the remaining magicians should remain in the kneeling position described previously, while 1 or 2 people at most pass through the portal. It's vital that the portal remains open so that the traveler or travelers have an exit. Don't wander off too much, because if your partner's concentration begins to falter, you could remain trapped forever in a state of doom and frenzy. Good luck on that front! In 4th place, we have the Cave of Sybil. Naples, Italy is home to a gateway to hell called the Cave of Sybil, which was described by Virgil over 2,000 years ago in the Aeneid. If I'm quoting directly, the gates of hell are open night and day. Smooth the descent and easy is the way. According to the poet, the Trojan hero of the same name met the oracle Sybil here, and she guided him through the cave into hell. In 1932, after centuries of searching, explorers finally uncovered this entrance to the netherworld. Now today, visitors to the Cumae archaeological site can go inside Sybil's cave and walk through her coffin-shaped rock-cut passageways. Okay, before someone asks about the ritual enacted, that was done privately by the prophetess, and I felt like since she left the portal behind, it deserved a spot on today's list. Partially because I wanted to emphasize that portals have been enacted since the beginning of time, and hey, if you need a portal, I'm not saying you should go here, but this place could have some strong energy for it. Don't do it, but if you are. In 3rd place, we have a ritual for summoning Satan. Once again, I'll be leaving elements out of this description. While I can't control what y'all do, I don't want any apocalyptic chaos on my conscience. My life is plenty exhausting enough without having that on its plate. This particular ritual comes from the Grimorium Verum, published by Jake Stratton Kent in 2009. So firstly, the magician must forge a pact with the demon that does the call dialing itself, a sort of psychopompic spirit called the Surlin, whose sigil must be inscribed alongside the operant's initials at the outset of the process onto a ruby or correspondent precious stone. Ooh, I love rubies. So this amulet is to be worn inside the magician's breast pocket or on a necklace at all times. Essential to operating the Verum is a calendrical convention drawn from Hermetic astrology that utilizes both the planetary hours and assigns a spirit to each particular day of the week. So this dictates that the construction of most of the tools for the ritual are to be done at dawn over the course of a few weeks during a time when the moon is waxing. So unlike the ritual I kicked off today with, this one is much more time consuming. The actual ritual of summoning must be done at an appointed time, depending on the properties of the demon. So to compel the dark host, the magician must cut a branch at dawn from both a virgin elder tree on the day of Asaroth and hazelwood on the day of Surgat, inscribing upon them the seals of the demons Fremost and Klepot, to be fashioned into wands of evocation and divination, respectively. Similarly, the materials for the signing of the pact are to be purified and consecrated at dawn, also on the day of Astaroth. The Verum conveniently includes instructions for the consecration of a ritual stabby implement intended to sacrifice a goat, as well as its skinning, scraping, stretching, and curing into parchment upon which the demon sigil will be copied. The writing of the contract on the parchment, including the copying of the sigil of Surlin, the demon seals, and the drafting of all legal agreements, is to be done at dawn on the day of Beelzebub. Special herbs and incense are then used to immerse the magician in a sensory tradition. A mixture of mace, frankincense, and aloe wood is burned in a censer upon the altar at the ceremony and used to fumigate all tools for the operation. For purity, the magician must anoint themselves and their tools in a sprinkling of holy water mixed with mint, marjoram, and rosemary that is bound by a thread spun by a maiden. The setting of the ceremony demands a magic circle that should be roughly 9 feet in diameter and must be drawn with a stabby implement, consecrated at dawn on the day of Silkard, and drenched in red mole fluid and juice of pimpernel. now. Within the circle's center, the magician is to draw the triangle of evocation, upon which is set the ceremonial altar. The ritual itself prescribes a rite of sanctification, using the wand to mimic alternating flail lashes, and a recitation of personal exhortations. Then, after a series of prayers used to elevate the operant's magical authority, the spirit is to be called forth. After chanting an incantation of barbarous names, the demons must be summoned in top-down hierarchy order. First petitioning one of the unholy trinity of Lucifer, Astaroth, and Beelzebub, then calling upon one of their 7 dukes, and then finally the demon further down the hierarchy which you wish to actually summon. Following an exhausting hours-long rite, the desired demon is believed to appear, either as a presence or as a vision in a mirror. So from here, the magician might sign a pact with the particular demon, and the rest depends on what is needed. And how you treat the demon. They're pretty dang tricky beings. In second place, we have Huska Castle. Located north of Prague, Huska Castle is a 13th century Gothic masterpiece that sits on top of Hell's Gate. Aesthetically speaking alone, I would love to visit it someday. According to local lore, the castle's chapel was built to cover an enormous hole in the ground that served as a satanic threshold. So I haven't been able to find the specifics on the rituals used to open the portal, but it was too important to leave off today's list. The defensive walls also prevented demons and other ghastly creatures from crawling out of the hellhole. Animal-human hybrids were reported to have crawled out of it, and dark-winged, otherworldly creatures flew in its vicinity. Legend has it that when construction began in the castle, all the prisoners that were sentenced to death were offered a pardon if they consented to be lowered by rope into the hole and report back on what they saw. So when the first person was lowered, he began screaming after a few seconds, and when pulled back to the surface, he looked as if he had aged 30 years. He had grown wrinkles and his hair had turned white. Ugh. May I recommend trying to find a modern-day Buffy? She'd be anyone's best bet for closing a hellmouth. During World War II, the bad German guys occupied the castle until 1945. The Yahtzees were said to have conducted experiments and summonings into the occult. According to one source, locals were certain that they had been using the powers of hell for their experiments. So Huska Castle is still considered haunted, and many tourists have reported seeing headless horses and demonic winged beasts lurking in the halls. And finally, in first place, we have the Ouija board recovered from the Donovan household. Yep. Ouija boards count as demonic rituals. I repeat, as always, leave the stupid things in the store or wherever you found them. Not worth it. Patty Donovan was simply a lonely teenager who thought the board could find her a friend, and well, it found her a manipulator. She spent months falling in love with a spirit she believed to be in love with her, telling it secrets about her everyday life, becoming emotionally dependent on the spirit. So on the evening of March 2nd, 1974, Patty pleaded for the spirit to manifest. Yeah, the next morning, her father, Theodore Donovan, found the spark plug wires pulled out, the rubber hose unfastened, and the fan belt cut when he attempted to start his car. Not much later, Patty attempted to start her car, and it was discovered that the internal engine had been completely disassembled. That week, other incidents of apparent vandalism occurred around the Donovan house, and Patty could no longer raise her invisible boyfriend on the Ouija board. Night after night, she tried to communicate, but the planchette would simply slide over to goodbye. She had no idea that her ethereal boyfriend had actually manifested in the form of a supernatural vandal. By the second week of March, material damage to the house and cars had become so troublesome that Ted complained to the police. When they arrived, he pointed out the destruction done to garden plants and shrubs, the exterior of the house, and the apparent intrusion into a locked garage to puncture tires and tear engines apart. Before leaving, the policeman assured Ted that they'd keep an eye on the property during night patrols. Later that second week, after work, Ted and his wife Ellen were sitting in the kitchen with their son Brian when all three heard something smash against a wall somewhere inside the house. And after investigating, they found a gaping 18-inch hole in the plasterboard wall inside Brian's room. Just as upsetting was the fact that the jagged edges of the plasterboard were pointing inwards, with the blow coming from inside the walls. The house was further plagued by loud noises every night that only escalated in frequency and volume, along with further unexplainable damage to the walls. On April 1st, furniture began to levitate, with a 250-pound dresser flinging its contents while flying erratically. Rocks had also begun to rain from the sky, pelting only the Donovan house, which the police bore witness to. Ted eventually broke down at work and explained the horror of his home to his supervisor, who urged him to reach out to our favorite people, Ed and Lorraine Warren. So Ted instead tried moving his family into a hotel first, and the spirits followed the family there, destroying the room and making so much noise that the family was thrown out of the hotel and forced to return home. Finally contacting the Warrens, they arrived in Maine as quickly as they were able to, and Oh my goodness. Lorraine said nothing, although at the time she sensed in the home the presence of entities so numerous and threatening that she had to fight with herself to keep from going back outside. After a lengthy tour of the house, Anne and Lorraine conducted an interview with the entire family, where Patty's history with the Ouija board was revealed. The Warrens then contacted the Catholic Church to begin the process for an exorcism to be granted, which sadly took about a month. The family experienced many more unexplainable horrors during that time. After the exorcism took place on May 2nd, the family was finally free of the demonic torment, but left with over $5,000 in damages, which would be over $30,000 in today's money.
Number 5 on this list is the closet game. This is a game where you can make it so that your closet is forever haunted by a demon, because apparently this is desirable to some people. In fact, the entire point of the game is to simply summon a demon. It's very simple and you won't need a whole lot of things to make it work. First things first, you're gonna need a closet, and this is where you're gonna be summoning your demon and where it's going to stay for the rest of your life, assuming that you perform the ritual properly. You are also going to need a box of matches. Get your matches and head to the closet. Now you need to make sure that all the light in that room that your closet is located in is off. Having any light around will interrupt the ritual and it won't work. Get inside your closet and close the door. You should be in complete darkness at this point. Take one of your matches and hold it up to your face. Don't light it yet, just have your match there and ready to go for when you do need it. Now say the following words: "Show me the light or leave me in darkness." Those are the words, and once you say those, you should begin to notice a serious presence in your environment. You will start to hear whispers as if somebody is standing behind you and whispering in your ear. The second that you hear that, and this is very important, you have to light your match immediately. It's said that if you don't light it quickly enough or at the exact right moment, then the demon that you have just summoned to your closet will grab you from behind and pull you back into the darkness. Now, assuming that you did light your match okay and you haven't been pulled straight back to hell, then the whispers should stop and now you can safely exit your closet. However, now your closet is literally forever haunted by that demon. So yeah, this is gonna go on the should never perform list for me, because literally best case scenario is that you survive the ritual and now you just have to forever fear going and getting clothes from your closet. Number 4 on this list is the 11-mile game. This game is actually done in your car or on your motorcycle, so a little change from our standard get in a room and turn the lights off sort of ritual. That being said though, it does have to be performed at night and you also have to be alone in your vehicle. You're gonna have to take your car out into the woods, drive down the wooded roads and keep your mind open. Eventually you will come upon a road and you're gonna have to recognize that this is the 11-mile road. There isn't going to be any bright flashing neon signs, so that's where your intuition has to come into play. Once you turn down the 11-mile road, there is no going back until you finish it. So ready yourself and then begin your drive. You have to make sure that your radio is off, same with your phone, and also have all your doors and your windows shut. As you're driving, things will begin to happen. The first mile, there's nothing. It's just a standard road. But by the time you get to the 4th mile, you may start to hear voices or notice movements in the darkness. Keep your eyes on the road and keep driving. By the 8th mile, your headlights will be flickering. The voices will be incredibly loud, maybe even from your back seat. You may see bright lights from the forest. Just keep your eyes on the road and keep driving. By the 10th mile, don't look in the mirror, don't look in the back seat. Your car may even stall and stop, but you can't panic. Quickly turn it off and then turn it back on and keep driving, because you can't stay in one place for very long. Last mile is the 11th mile, and your car will assuredly stall. You just have to tune everything out. Voices, feelings, sensations. Ignore everything. Close your eyes if you have to. Plug your ears. Whatever you have to do so that you don't look at anything. Just get your car operating again and keep driving. If you make it through the 11th mile, then you will reach a dead end in the road, and here is where you can finally stop. At this point, you've just made it through the 11-mile road and you are granted with one wish that will manifest something physical inside your car. This ritual is only extremely dangerous if your focus shifts for any moment. If you trust your ability to stay super calm under the type of demonic pressure you would be experiencing from the 11th mile, then that's up to you. But just know that if you do stop or you do look at something, then the consequences could be very dire. Number 3 on this list is the Gambler's Game. Now honestly guys, this is actually one that I would be very interested in as somebody who likes to gamble. This one kind of sounds fun. However, you gotta note your life will be on the line, so probably not the best idea. How it works is super simple. You will need a deck of cards, a quiet room, a table, and 2 chairs. You want to set the table up so that there's nothing on it except for the pack of cards and chairs facing across from one another. Sit in your chair and look at the empty one across the table from you. Open up your cards and shuffle them thoroughly. Do not try to cheat. You have to play fair. At the end of the day, you are gambling here. Now the game that you actually play is up to you, so you might have a slight advantage there. However, it's said that the gambler, who you're going to play with, prefers blackjack and may even take it easy on you if that's the game you choose. Pick the game and deal out the cards to yourself and to the empty seat. Now very simply, look across at your invisible partner and say, "Let's play." If the gambler feels like playing, then you should feel a chill in the air, like a strong breeze. That means that he's across the table from you now and you can continue. You won't be able to see him, he will still be invisible. Also, if you don't feel a chill in the air, don't bother continuing, there won't be anybody there. Once he's there though and accepted to play with you, the wager from your end is your life. Proceed by playing the game as you would. You'll have to move his hand for him, but once again, don't cheat. You will die if you do. If the game progresses and you lose, then the gambler won't waste any time at all. You will be killed on the spot. If the game progresses though and you win, and this is the good part, you can now take the top card off the deck and cut open your index finger on one hand. Once you've drawn blood, then congratulations, that hand is now your lucky hand. If you head to a casino and you play blackjack and you pick up the cards with that hand, you will turn a made hand. If you throw a die, same deal, they will land on your number. Basically now you have exceptional gambling luck for the rest of your life, and you could in turn become extremely rich. You still shouldn't do this though, because you are betting your life to begin with and you could very easily lose to a professional demon gambler. But the reward at the end is amazing. Now all this could just be a major hoax on the internet. Like if you think about it, he's invisible the whole time and you just have to move his cards. Like that's basically just solitaire. So I'm not totally sure, but we might never know, because I personally do not want to risk my life and test the theory. Number 2 on this list is the Dry Bones Ritual. This game is super similar to the Midnight Man game, if you've ever heard of that one. The idea is pretty simple. Hide and seek with a demon with potentially life or death stakes. That, in my opinion, doesn't sound so great. However, if you win, then you do get something pretty special. It's said that if you're able to win this hide and seek game, then the demon Dry Bones will grant you one wish of your choosing, so you could stand to gain quite a bit. If you're gonna do this, then it has to be done at exactly 12:01 a.m. You have to make sure that every door in your home is firmly locked. This goes for the windows as well. All electronics, lights, radios, anything that is typically plugged in, that has to be turned off as well. Once this is done, focus your mind on the wish that you want. It has to be something realistic because it's going to show up outside your door when the game is over if you win. Once you've done that and made it clear in your brain, light a match. If this match doesn't burn out in less than 15 seconds, so it has to stay lit for 15 seconds, then Dry Bones has decided that it will play with you tonight. Now, lie on the ground and say, "I am aware of your presence, and I welcome you into my home, but not my body. Come now." If you hear a deep echoing moan, then it is on its way. It's at this point that you would better run and you better hide, and you gotta make sure that it's good because you have to stay hidden until 3 a.m. that same morning. If you are capable of lasting until 3, then come out and say, "Thank you for playing, but please leave now. You are no longer welcome." You have then won the game, and you can now go find your wish granted outside of your home. If it finds you in that 3 hours though, no one actually knows what happens. You might die, you might be petrified, maybe something nice even happens, I'm not sure. Although I certainly would not want to be the person to find out. Number 1 on this list is Blue Baby Blue. Now Blue Baby Blue is very similar to Bloody Mary, except now you'll be summoning a demon baby, so that's something, I guess. As with many of these rituals, this will be taking place in a dark room with a mirror. Now the dark room actually has to be a bathroom because you're gonna need access to a toilet. If you don't have a toilet, then you're probably gonna die. Here's what you have to do. Go into your bathroom and lock the door. Turn all the lights out so that you should be in complete darkness. darkness. Now you will need just a slight bit of light to see some sort of reflection in the mirror, so either wait for your eyes to adjust or I guess bring in a very small candle with you. Now stick out both of your hands as if you were holding something in front of you. Look into the mirror and repeat this 13 times. Baby blue, blue baby. That's 1. Do that 13 times without fail, which is actually kind of hard. Baby blue, blue baby, baby blue, blue baby. Yeah, that would be difficult. But if you make a mistake and trip up on your words, then it said that it won't work. So you're gonna have to start again if you do that. If you do make it through that part of the ritual, then in your outstretched arms, you should feel a weight has just formed. You won't be able to see it, but you will very clearly feel that you are now holding a demon baby. Now you have to make sure that that thing is far away from you, because if it's close enough, then it's gonna scratch, it's gonna claw, it's gonna rip out your hair. It's not a pleasant baby. After a little while of feeling the weight in your arms and hopefully it not clawing the crap out of you, you're gonna start to hear crying coming from inside your head. This is your cue to take the baby, drop that thing in the toilet, and flush it out of here. It's said that if you don't do that part fast enough, kind of similarly to our previous example with the matches, then you're gonna be in trouble. If you wait a little bit too long, then a hideous looking woman is gonna appear in the mirror. She's gonna stare straight at you and yell, "Give me back my baby." That scream is said to be so loud that it will break the glass of the mirror, and then she will step straight into your bathroom and murder you. Definitely not a good freaking time, if you ask me. Number 5 on this list is Sugiura. Sugiura is a Japanese fortune-telling ritual that's goal is to tell the user their future. To do this, you're gonna need to summon what many people believe is an undead spirit or a demon, and whenever you do that, there are always some risks involved. You're gonna need a few things to perform this ritual. A comb, something to cover your face with, not just a mask, but your entire face has to be covered, and to be at a crossroads that won't be busy. Head to the crossroads with your comb and your face covering. You'll want to get there around 11:50 at night. When the clock hits midnight, take your comb and stroke the teeth of it so that it makes some noise. Then say the following words: Sugiura, Sugiura, grant me a true response. Now wait, it may take a little while, so you have to be patient. If nobody approaches the crossroads or someone you know approaches the crossroads, then sadly the ritual did not work and you can go home. If a stranger approaches though, then it did work, and you have just summoned an undead spirit. Once you see them in the distance, immediately throw your face covering on. When you feel their presence beside you, kindly ask them to tell you your fortune. They should do so, and you will receive an insight into what is to come. The thing about fortunes though is that a lot of times you're not going to like what you hear. We always have these lofty expectations that assume life will always be better than it is right now. Well, what if you knew for certain that it's actually going to be worse and there isn't anything that you can do about it? That's one of the reasons why you shouldn't do this ritual, because knowing what comes can take the meaning out of life. This is also a demonic ritual where you're summoning an undead spirit. It doesn't always go the way that you want it to, and on occasion people have reported that the spirit that they summoned wasn't the one that they expected. Similar to how demons can hijack Ouija board experiences, they could do the exact same thing here. Number 4 on this list is the concentration ritual. This is a pretty strange one where you'll actually learn how you're going to die. If you want to do this, then you won't be able to do it by yourself. You're going to need another person to help you. Close your eyes and clear your mind. Have your friend stand behind you and lightly pound your back as they begin the concentration chant. Now for this video, I'm not going to go through the entire chant because it's actually really long, but to sum it up, there are 5 verses that act as a way of hypnotizing you and sending your spirit away from your body. When it finishes, your friend from behind you will give you a light push that should make you stumble and fall forward. As you're regaining your balance, open your eyes and you should see a color. The color that you see determines how you're gonna die. For instance, red means that somebody's gonna stab you. White means that you will die of old age and you'll go to heaven, whereas black means that you'll die of old age and go to hell. The thing about this game is that you'll never know when this is going to happen to you. So you may learn that you're gonna die from being stabbed, but never know when or by who. So for the rest of your life, you will be living in constant paranoia of somebody stabbing you. I think when it comes to death, ignorance truly is bliss, and learning about how you can die can only ever make your life worse right now. Number 3 on this list is the elevator game. The elevator game is a demonic ritual of sorts that is supposed to grant you the ability to enter another world. This other world is considered by most to be a demon realm. The game itself started in Korea, but has slowly gained more intrigue across the world from people looking to potentially enter hell. To do this, you'll need an elevator in a building that's at least 10 stories tall. The building that you're in should ideally be as empty as possible. Get in your elevator and then proceed to these following floors in order. First, you go to the 4th floor, then you descend to the 2nd floor, then up to the 6th, and then back down to the 2nd, and then go all the way up to the 10th floor, and then finally back down to the 5th. Now at the 5th floor is when things get interesting. People have done this and have reported having an encounter with a woman. This woman looks normal on the outside, but I promise you that she isn't to be trusted. She will enter the elevator from the 5th floor and do anything she can to gain your attention. This could come in the form of flattery, or she may even antagonize you, but whatever you do, do not pay her any mind at all. There doesn't seem to be a conclusive answer to what happens if you speak to her. However, death or an eternal haunting, these are very much on the table. Once she enters and you don't speak to her, press the 1st floor. If you descend to the 1st floor, get out of the elevator and don't look back. You weren't accepted into the other world. If the elevator starts to go up when you press the 1st floor though, then congratulations. You just made it into the demon realm. The elevator will rise to floor 10, and when the doors open, you will find yourself staring out at a very different version of the 10th floor. From my understanding, it looks very similar to the other side in the popular sci-fi television show Stranger Things. The lights will be out, darkness will flood the space. Apparently some people have reported seeing a red cross if you look out the windows. If you want to get back, then just repeat the steps that you did to get there and you should make it back home. Now this could all just be an elaborate prank to get people to hop in an elevator and waste their entire day by going up and down floors. Because if somebody hops in the elevator, then you have to stop and do it all over again. However, in 2013, a Canadian student died in an elevator, and when people watched back the footage, she was acting very strangely in the elevator prior to dying, almost as if she was being possessed. None of these rituals are an exact science, and any time you attempt to go to another world, expect there to be some potential consequences. Number 2 on this list is the 3 Kings. The 3 Kings is a ritual that should transport one person to an unknown dimension where they make a clarity on their past or future. Now for this ritual, you're gonna need a lot of things to make it work. A room without any outside light at all, a candle, a bucket of water, 2 sizable mirrors, an alarm clock, 3 chairs, a cell phone, and a friend that you trust. Yeah, I know, it's a lot of stuff. At around 11 at night, start setting up your ritual. Set up the chair in the middle of your room facing north and put the other 2 chairs next to it facing the same way. Take your mirrors and put them sitting in the chairs facing outwards. Have the bucket of water close by your chair. Now once all of this is done, it's time for you to go to sleep. Sleep until 3:30 a.m. in the morning. You must wake up precisely at that time and then head over to that room. Close the door and sit in the middle chair with your candle now lit. You should have your friend waiting outside of the door of the room that you're in. Now if all of this has been done correctly, this is when you should start to hear some voices. They'll be coming from the mirrors on either side of you, but it's very important that you do not look at these mirrors or make eye contact with whomever is speaking. You just have to keep staring ahead and try to stay calm. One of these voices will be the fool and one will be the queen. You in this scenario are the king. Being the king, you are allowed to ask questions that you would like to be answered. One of these beings will answer the questions. The problem is that you're never going to know who is who. The queen will tell you the truth, whereas the fool will lie to you. Not knowing who is who and having no way to find out makes it very difficult to discern the truth to these questions. Sometimes they may even respond to your question with one of their own, in which case you're obligated to reply. You will be able to speak to these beings for 1 hour, and right as that hour is up, your friend on the outside needs to get your attention. They should knock first, then try to call you. If you haven't responded to either of those, they need to come inside and throw the bucket of water on you. You may not respond to any of these initially because it's said that this ritual can bring you into a very deep trance. A trance that makes that hour you're sitting there feel like an eternity. An entire lifetime where you're stuck in your own mind sitting in that chair. Considering you don't even know if these answers are true or not, the risk is just not worth the reward for this ritual. Number 1 on this list is the corner game. This may be classified as a game, however it is basically a summoning ritual to bring a demon or ghostly spirit to our world. You can't perform this one on your own. You're going to need to have 4 people in total if you want to do this. You're also going to need access to a house without anything living in it other than you and your 3 friends. Turn off all the lights in your building or your home except for the ones in the room that you've chosen to perform the ritual. This room that you've chosen to do your ritual in, it has to have exactly 4 corners. Can't have any more, can't have any less. Head into your room and speak your name 3 times as you enter. Now before you enter the room, you'll have chosen a speaker. From here on out, after you've said your names, they are the only person that's allowed to say anything. Once you're inside and you've all repeated your names, close the door and turn off the lights. Everyone has to go to a corner of their choosing now and face into it with their backs to the center of the room. The speaker will then count to 3, and after they have done so, everyone has to move to the next corner of the room in a clockwise direction without looking at the center of the room. Do this exactly 4 times so that you end up in the same corner that you started in. Once this is completed, you will feel the presence of a figure in the center of the room. This is the demon or ghostly spirit that you've just summoned. Now what's kind of ridiculous about this is that you've just summoned this being, but you're not actually allowed to turn around and look at it. You have to remain with your back to the wall and just feel its presence. After you've had enough, you need to do the completion procedure, which is where everyone says their full name backwards 3 times, and then one by one exit the room hoping that the being doesn't follow you or isn't still there. People trying this game have reported having one of their members disappear and not being able to get them back. People have also said that sometimes the room is now forever haunted by this thing that you just summoned. Either way, I would never do this because you literally can't even see the demon that you just brought here. You go through all of this trouble, risk your life, to just stand with your back to the room, staring at a corner. Not really my idea of a good time.
Number 5 on this list is the Red Book Ritual, or also called the Game of the Red Book. This is another one of our classic rituals where we're going to be contacting a spirit to answer questions and potentially tell us the future. The ritual originated in Mexico and has been part of local Mexican lore for years. As we've seen throughout this series of demonic rituals you should never perform, whenever you contact a spirit, whatever the method, there are consequences. The Game of the Red Book is no different. To perform this ritual, you'll need a red hardcover book that you've never read with no pictures in it. At least 1 candle to light whatever room you choose to perform your ritual, and at least 1 other person to perform that ritual with. Head into your room with your partner or group of people that you're going to be doing this with and sit either across from one another or in a circle surrounding the book. Light your candle and have it be the only light in the room. Whoever wants to go first, grab the book, place your palm on the cover of it and say, "Red Book, can I enter your game?" Then, with your eyes closed, flip to a part of the book and put your finger on that page. Open your eyes and read the sentence. If this is a positive sentence, something you'll need to interpret, then you can play the game. If it's a negative sentence, then you're either not permitted to play or you're going to need to try again. Assuming that it's positive, you can now ask a different question to the red book. Repeat the process that you just did, and the spirit on the other side should guide your finger to a sentence in the book that will answer your question. This ritual doesn't seem too dangerous, however there have been stories of people going missing after this game, or the red book not allowing you to stop playing the game, and if you try to leave, bringing on dire consequences. Number 4 on this list is the picture game. This is a demonic ritual where the goal is to capture a ghost or a demon on camera. For this to work, you're going to need a wide array of unique items. Some string long enough to make a circle out of it, scissors, a small mirror for you and every person who intends to partake in this ritual, a camera with a flash, but it can't be a phone, it's got to be an actual camera, a glass to drink out of, some wine, and a quiet room. Once you have all of these things in place, you and the others doing this will want to start at midnight. Tie your string into a circle and place it in the center of your room. Put your glass in the center of it and fill it with the wine that you brought. Have everybody sit around the circle and place your mirror in front of yourself facing up towards the ceiling. Now that you're in position, grab each other's hands and go around the circle one by one saying, "I trust you." After you've done this once, you can grab your camera. Now one by one, take that camera and point it into the middle of the circle and say, "I caught you," right as you take a picture. The entire group should do this individually 3 times so that everybody is taken 3 pictures. Don't look at the pictures after you've taken them, just keep going around the circle. Now after everybody's done this 3 times, you once again need to go down the circle and say, it's time to go home. Once everybody's done this, grab your scissors and cut open the string circle. Take the wine outside and dump it onto a patch of earth. This action ultimately ends the ritual. When everything is done, you can look at your pictures now, and it's said that if you're lucky, you will have caught a ghost or a demon in one or a few of them. All of this seems pretty tame, but there are some risks involved, of course. During the process of the ceremony, there have been reports of people in the circle getting hysterical. So much so that they start crying and losing their minds as if they've been taken over by someone else. This can be excruciatingly painful as well, with reports of people clawing themselves until they start to bleed. If you do manage to get through the ritual without a hitch, then you could come out with a cool photo, but it may not be worth it. Number 3 on this list is the Ouija board. I haven't put the Ouija board on a previous list yet because I imagine you're all decently familiar with it, but considering we're on part 4, I think it's time to bring it up. The Ouija board was patented in 1891 and has been a staple in ghost stories for the 125 years that it's been in existence. The Ouija board, or the spirit board as some like to call it, has been paraded as a tool that can be used to contact the dead and speak with spirits. This board was initially made by Hasbro as a toy for kids, but many people nowadays associate it with the work of the devil. Using a Ouija board is quite simple, honestly. The board is typically structured where it has the words yes and no in the top corners. It has the words goodbye at the bottom of the board, and in the middle of it there's the entire alphabet along with the numbers 0 through 9. The board will also come with a planchette, and this is what you'll be using to spell out the answers to your questions. Get at least one other friend and place your hands on this device. Then begin asking simple questions to the board. You'll notice that the board will begin to respond and the planchette will start to move, even though you'll not be initiating the movement yourself. If this does happen, then you have now contacted a demon or a spirit. The problem with this board is that many people try and contact specific individuals, and it truly isn't that simple. A Ouija board is really like a scary dice roll. You may get lucky and contact the spirit of your grandmother who had passed, or you may get unlucky and contact a demon. The amount of stories associated with a Ouija board where things have gone wrong is truly endless. In fact, I made an entire video about it on this channel, top 5 scary demonic messages from a Ouija board. If you want to hear specifics on how crazy this thing can get, then definitely go and check that out. But my recommendation in that video and in this one is to never use one yourself. Number 2 on this list is the Dream of the Dead. The Dream of the Dead is a ritual performed by yourself as a means to hear what the dead have to say. This ritual is a little sneaky. It can only be performed on Halloween, so if you want to do it, then you're going to have to wait a whole nother year to try. To do this, you'll need 4 candles and something to light them with. Salt, an alarm clock, a picture of the person you want to connect with, and a safe place to sleep. You'll want to start setting up your room at around 9 p.m. on Halloween night. Clear the room of any electronics and make space on the floor. Spread your salt in a circle on the ground of the area you want to sleep. If you're sleeping in a bed, then make the circle around the bed. Place the picture you have beneath the pillow that you're going to use. Light your candles in a separate part of the room in a rectangle big enough for you to sit inside. Now that everything is set, you can begin. Go to your rectangle of candles and place yourself inside of it. Close your eyes and think about a group of people that are dead that are now surrounding you. Think about this image and say the words, "On this night of nights, I call the gatekeeper, divider of the realm of the living and the dead, and I demand communion with the peaceful dead." Now, go to your bed and sleep. Once you fall asleep, you should see the person whose picture is beneath your pillow. They will appear in your dream and speak to you. Don't speak back, just listen to what they have to say. The problem with this ritual is that sometimes it isn't that person who you intended, kind of similarly to the Ouija board. People have also reported feeling trapped in this dream, like it's never ending and their whole lives are being spent in this dream, or at least that's what it feels like to them. I think hearing from the dead could be cool, but I personally would not want to risk a harrowing experience with a demon in my dreams. Number 1 on this list is Sarah Sarita. Sarah Sarita is a ritual that originated in Spain and is used as a method of gaining information from a dead spirit. Whomst Sarah Sarita is is somewhat up in the air. Now, some people believe that Sarah Sarita is one person and that she's the daughter of Lucifer. Others believe that Sarah and Sarita are two different people, sisters that were brutally murdered and now play this game with the living. Whether it be the daughter of Lucifer or two dead girls, you will be dealing with demon spirits, and that can always go wrong. To perform this ritual, you're going to need one other friend. You also need 2 standard coins. Now, do not try to rig the coins so they're weighted, or you'll be killed. You and your friend can start at any time of the day. You just need to sit on the ground of whatever area you've chosen and say in unison, Sarah Sarita, may I enter your game. Then, simultaneously, flip your coins. If both land heads up, then you can continue going. If both land tails up, then you stop immediately and do not proceed. If one is heads and one is tails, then it's said that you can continue, but do so with caution. Assuming you got both heads up, then proceed by asking Sarah Sarita some yes or no questions. You need to go one by one, and you should never speak over yourselves. Ask her a yes or no question, and then both flip your coins. The same logic follows as before. Heads is a yes, tails are a no, and if they differ, then it's a maybe. When you've had enough, you must ask Sarah Sarita, may I leave your game? Then flip your coins and continue to ask this question until you get heads. Leaving early, that's a big no-no, so don't do that. The ritual here isn't too dangerous, but it's what has happened after this ritual. People have reported getting haunted by some sort of demon figure following this game, or hearing voices in their heads that won't go away. Sarah Sarita, whoever it is assuredly a demon, and they're not to be trusted. Well, there you have it, guys. That is our list of the top 5 demonic rituals you should never perform. Part 4.
First up, we have Incubus. This dark demon is said to take on the appearance of a male human who tries to impregnate unsuspecting women while they are asleep. Now, the goal of Incubus is to use his unsuspecting victims to birth demons and witches in order to create more servants of hell and devil worshippers. The word incubus is actually derived from the Latin language and directly translates to nightmare. So keeping that in mind, it only makes sense that this demon would appear in the shadows of the night to prey on his victims. It is not known how many dark beings Incubus could have fathered, but it is believed that the famous magician Merlin was actually created by Incubus. Many people believe that Merlin would actually spread dark magic in the towns that he traveled to while he was under the demon's control. Now, some people also believe that this demon has actually been summoned through a Ouija board on multiple occasions. There are many stories that people find their partners alone in bed doing some unspeakable acts by themselves. It also appears that any woman who has been a victim of Incubus has no recollection of the events that led to their eventual pregnancy. And once a Ouija board has been used to summon Incubus, it is incredibly hard to get rid of him. This is not as simple as opening a door and kicking someone out of your house when you want them to leave. Some of the oldest tricks that were used in the medieval era include covering your bed in black salt and burning special types of incense that Incubus really doesn't like. So unless you want to have a very disgusting visitor arrive in your home, the Incubus is one demon you should never activate with a Ouija board. So do you believe that Ouija boards are as dangerous as people claim? Give us your thoughts in the comments down below as we check out some more demons. Next up is Beelzebub. This demon is viewed as many different things by many different people, which brings up the possibility that it could be a real-life shapeshifter. Now, most demons have a clear goal that they want to achieve, and they have various ways of manipulating their victims in order to obtain what they want. Beelzebub loosely translates to Lord of the Flies, which has led many to believe that this demon could very well take on the appearance of a small insect. However, other stories have described Beelzebub as a large demon that actually commands a huge army of insect-like creatures. It is said that Beelzebub uses its many servants to cause destruction and wreak havoc on Earth through violent attacks. These servants are generally regarded as scum and excrement that are lurking in the deepest depths of the underworld. Some religious figures even believe that these servants are damned souls who are forced to carry out their Lord's dirty work for the rest of eternity. The Catholic Church especially fears Beelzebub, as he is even mentioned in the Bible. The scribes in Mark 3:22 have actually accused Jesus Christ himself of working directly with Beelzebub. Some believe that the Lord of the Flies was banishing evil spirits away from Earth on Jesus' orders so he could gain even more servants. Now, anything that commands an army of evil spirits and has the ability to shapeshift should not be taken lightly. Summoning Beelzebub with a Ouija board can enrage the demon and cause it to take over your day-to-day life. There have been reports of Beelzebub appearing in homes as a large dark mass that is most active at night. Other smaller paranormal events are likely the work of his minions, but this is one demon you do not want want to mess around with. After that, we have Antoine Gay. This one may not sound as terrifying as a traditional demon, but it could be even more dangerous. Antoine Gay started out life as an ordinary human being, but he is infamously known as being one of the strongest cases of demonic possession to this very day. Antoine was a Frenchman who served in the military in the 1800s before becoming a carpenter in the city of Lyon. He then decided he wanted to begin the process of becoming a monk and was accepted as a lay brother at his local abbey. Now things took a strange turn for him, however, when he shockingly decided to leave the church due to a complete nervous disorder. His sudden mood swings and his unexplained conditions quickly started to raise concerns that he had been possessed by a demon. He was examined by priests and other religious figures who reported that Gay spoke in a much deeper tone and began to share dark secrets of his life. He also started speaking in perfect Latin without ever studying the language or having any knowledge of it. Now religious figures named the demon that had possessed Antoine Isacaro, but not much was known about the demon or its intentions beyond its name. Antoine Gay eventually passed away in the late 1800s due to various complications that priests believe were linked to the demon who had possessed him. But nowadays there are people who are convinced that Antoine Gay is still inhabiting our world as an evil entity. There are rumors that Isacaro had passed its energy onto Antoine when he passed away, and he is now tormenting other souls all around the world. However, because of the mystery surrounding the original demon, no one is really sure how to stop it. Ouija boards are likely the easiest way to summon it, but there is no reason why anyone should even attempt to do that. Next on our list is Baphomet. This demon is another direct servant of Satan who was mentioned in texts as far back as the 11th century. He is described as a large winged beast with a goat head and a human-like body. Many paintings also show the words dissolve and coagulate tattooed on the demon's arms. Now this seems a little strange at first until you realize the main purpose of this demonic figure. Many believe that Satan had originally summoned Baphomet to destroy religion from the inside out. He would manipulate humans on earth to carry out some evil deeds and spread the word that religion was very bad for the soul. Of course, Baphomet needed a large following of loyal servants who would help him in his quest, and he didn't have a tough time finding them. The infamous Knights Templar that existed between the 12th and 14th centuries were apparently the main followers and direct servants of Baphomet. They would supposedly carry out all sorts of anti-Catholic rituals and actions, which included spitting on the cross. While the Knights were technically a military order that was supposedly fighting alongside the Catholic Church, some believe that they were actually fighting against it. Many people started to question the Templars' faith in the early 1300s, and some were convinced that they were worshipping demons. Then in 1307, it was King Philip IV who ordered the majority of the Knights to be arrested for worshipping Baphomet. This led to the of many members and the complete dissolution of the order. But if you thought that spelled the end of Baphomet altogether, then you would be very wrong. There are many anti-religious groups that still exist today, and many believe that they are actively summoning Baphomet to carry out their orders. While many evil spirits are keen on working with this terrifying demon, others are still actively fighting to banish him forever. And finally we have Lucifer. Now this evil figure is actually a fallen angel who is now believed to be the demon of pride. Now because pride is one of the 7 deadly sins, Lucifer's actions have resulted in him being labeled a demon by many in the Catholic Church. It is said that Lucifer was actually one of God's greatest creations, and many regarded him as a true son of God. While Lucifer was gifted a throne by God himself and was placed in the Garden of Eden to enlighten humans, his own self-pride eventually got the better of him. After witnessing the creation of Adam and Eve, Lucifer was ordered to bow to the original pair of humans. But in a defiant move of power, Lucifer declared that his creation was far superior and he refused to bow to Adam and Eve. Now some believe that Lucifer was incredibly brave to rebel against his creator, but God was not interested in hearing his argument. Lucifer was banished from heaven for his actions and is regarded as the first sinner for putting his own self-pride before God. His appearance as an angel quickly transformed into a demon who convinces people to develop egos. It is believed by many in the Catholic Church and others that egotistical people are the works of Lucifer himself as he leads them to their inevitable downfall. While many demons could be considered more dangerous due to their violent natures, Lucifer could actually be the most cunning of them all. His slow and steady manipulation of a person's ego can lead to some terrible choices in life that can have irreversible consequences. The estimated number of victims who have been manipulated by Lucifer throughout history is well into the millions. Summoning this entity through a Ouija board might not have an immediate impact on a person's life, but it will slowly crush them over time. There are definitely ways to fix a person who is possessed by Lucifer, but you'd be better off just keeping him far away from any Ouija boards.
Number
5. Niccolo Paganini. The first up on our list today of people who summoned the devil or a demon of some kind is Niccolo Paganini, who was once called the devil's violinist, which is quite the nickname. Looks great on a resume. I didn't know the devil really hired out help like that. Paganini, which does sound a bit like a delicious sandwich, was born in 1782 in Genoa, Italy. Under his father's influence, he was given lessons by renowned violinists, quickly becoming a prodigy. His musical talents were praised, and he was given all manner of scholarships. He had his first performance at 11, and by age 15, he was already touring around Italy performing, just in case you needed something to compare yourself to and feel bad about your own achievements. Don't feel bad. I'm 26, I haven't toured Italy once. He was particularly well known for being able to perform recitals without sheet music. He memorized everything and was apparently able to play 12 notes a second at an inhuman speed. Now, while this could be explained by the fact that he'd been raised to play the violin in a Spartan-like upbringing, locals around Genoa began to whisper and tell stories of how he must have sold his soul to be able to play the violin like that. It also didn't help much that Niccolo's pale, lanky, and quite ghost-like appearance made people a bit suspicious of the guy. I get it, as someone who's very tall, lanky, and ghost-like, people ask me all the time, Taylor, did you sell your soul to be so good at YouTube hosting? The answer? Yes. Paganini was a striking man with hollow cheeks, pale skin, and very long, thin fingers, which did not calm any of these rumors down. These things plagued his reputation, with people claiming outlandish things, saying they'd seen him with hooves, they'd seen him talking to the devil. Some say his violin was made out of the intestines of a woman he'd slain, and her soul was trapped in his violin, which I guess would make it sound beautiful? Now, in the end, Paganini would contract tuberculosis, and found himself getting weaker and weaker as the months and years went by. Before his death, he turned away last rites from a Catholic priest, saying he didn't need him because he wasn't going to die. He would pass shortly after. Was it because he'd already made his last rites with Satan, or was he just confident? It's up to you to decide. And if you're looking for more freaky stories of demonic possession, exorcisms, and all that jazz, we've got loads of that on the channel. If ghosts and goblins ain't your jam, we've got cryptids, conspiracies, aliens, government cover-ups, basically anything scary above or under the sun, we've covered it more than a few times. So click on through, hit that bell to not miss a single scream, but please do that at the end of this video, okay? We got way more scary stories coming up for you. Number 4, Latoya Ammons. Our next entry on this list is Latoya Ammons and her mother Rosa Campbell, involving an infamous haunting that is sometimes referred to as the 200 Demon House or the Demon House. That's a lot of demons. A family moved into a new house in Gary, Indiana, only to quickly discover that the house already had plenty of residents. They claimed that black flies would swarm the porch every single day in December in a climate that should reasonably have had them die off. Mother Rosa Campbell claims she heard footsteps in the basement and doors creaking, and witnessed a shadowy specter of a man pacing around her living room, claiming he was leaving behind boot prints. Now that's pretty scary. But the most wild claim was that this spirit man once choked her directly. Rosa's daughter Latoya claimed that she levitated above her daughter while unconscious during a sleepover, leading to her friend praying for her safety until she returned to the ground. Another wild incident describes an unknown force pushing the son of the family firmly into a wall, with a voice in the back of his head screaming, "It's time to die." Strangely, the family didn't decide to, burn the house down and move out and change state lines, but instead reached out to their family physician. You know the old saying, when there's something strange, who are you gonna call? Your local general practitioner. Well, the doc visited the house and noted that he thought the behavior of the family was delusional. So the family went to Father Michael Maganote in 2012, who was called in to perform an exorcism. He believed the family had unintentionally summoned a demon and were being tormented by hundreds of demons. And the real estate agent didn't mention that, did he? In the end, the father exorcised the house, and the Ammons family moved to Indianapolis in peace, where they now await a movie deal from 20th Century Fox, I'm certain. Number 3, Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson could play the blues real well. In fact, he played it so darn well that people suspected he wasn't just really in tune with the music, but had made a deal with the devil to pluck the strings. Johnson was born in Mississippi in May 1911 and lived alongside his 9 siblings. Good gosh, imagine the rush for the bathroom in the mornings. He eventually made his way to Memphis, where he discovered his love for the blues, and boy howdy could he play them. By all accounts, he was a legendary contemporary harmonica player, but initially, his friends would describe him as a pretty lousy guitarist. Well, practice makes perfect, right? Well, practice and demonic transaction. Because the story goes that Johnson would disappear for a few weeks entirely and buried his guitar at the crossroads of the now famous Highways 49 and 61 in Clarksdale, Mississippi, where the devil retuned his instrument and blessed his hands with the unnatural skills that made him a legend. When he started playing again, he was an overnight master of the blues. Now, unfortunately, the blues is born out of tragedy, and Robert Johnson was sadly no different. He passed away at the fairly early age of 27, the infamous age in which rock stars and famous musicians are purported to die with an alarming regularity. Amy Winehouse, Kurt Cobain, to rattle off a few. What makes this particular death odd, though, is how few details exist. His death was never reported, no autopsy ever performed, no cause ever given. The only thing we have to go on is local folklore. One in particular tells the story of Johnson playing at a country dance, where Johnson had been flirting with a married woman, and she gave Johnson a bottle of whiskey, which was slapped out of his hands by Sonny Boy Williamson, another musician at the exact same show. And he told him not to drink anything that he hadn't personally seen the lid come off of, which is fairly good advice. And Johnson responded by saying, "Don't ever knock a drink out of my hand." Johnson would die in a convulsive state 3 days later, with some believing that he'd been poisoned by the woman and her husband as revenge. Or perhaps it was just the devil coming back for the merchandise that he paid for, his soul. Number 2, Agrippa. Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa was a scholar living in the 15th century with one of the coolest names ever. Corny Agrippa. Agrippa devoted his life to writing about the occult. Now, I can freely talk to you about the occult, the devil, and all manner of blasphemous heretical things, but things haven't always been so liberal. And way back when, even so much of breathing about the devil was tantamount to sinning, so Agrippa was not a man without controversy. He wrote of the devil in great, intricate detail. His books would include information breaking down exactly how witches cast spells and perform incantations and rituals, and even shared where they get all of their cool outfits, big hats, and big stomping boots. It's mostly Hot Topic and doll skill. So where did Agrippa get all of this information? Was he just making it up? Was he really in tune with the local scene? Kind of. He claimed that when he was a young man, he gave in to the temptation of Satan and ran with a convent of witches, going around engaging in rituals and casting spells, and I gotta be honest, that sounds awesome. I did a similar thing when I followed Grimes on tour. Eventually, Agrippa is said to have cleaned up a little, got over his goth phase, and said to have found Jesus and saved his soul, and began to write books preaching the good word about how you should let Jesus in your life and push the devil on out of here. Surprisingly, Agrippa was never executed despite his open nature regarding his witchcraft and occult days. It's a common misconception that he was executed for his heresy, but actually in the end, Agrippa pushed people for be more understanding of demons and the devil, and pushed for people to know their enemy. He wanted to save people from the devil's grasp and save them through prayer rather than just burning them all at the stake, which is a noble goal. And number 1, Anna Eklund. Perhaps you've heard the story of Anna Eklund before. We've covered it on the channel, I think, and it was made into a popular movie, appropriately enough titled The Exorcism of Anna Eklund, so you don't confuse it with any other exorcism movies out there. Now, Anna's story is infamous. She's a young woman from America who has the dubious award of having the world's longest exorcism, spanning decades of exercising. Those demons were in there good. Those are demons with like rent control. You're not getting them out of that apartment. It will begin in 1912 when Eklund underwent an exorcism by Father Theophilus Reisinger, a Bavarian priest. It seemed like things were successful and Anna was freed, but then in 1928, Anna began exhibiting all the telltale signs of demonic possession yet again, and Reisinger returned to perform a second exorcism on Eklund. Eklund was taken into a convent on August 1928 to be dealt with round the clock. She would behave oddly, to say the least, hissing at them like a cat, flying into fits of violent rage when offered food that had been doused in holy water. This exorcism was brutal even by exorcism standard, with Eklund allegedly levitating, howling, hanging out the door frame. Eklund was believed to be possessed by not just any old rank-and-file demon, but allegedly was possessed by Judas Iscariot, big celebrity demon inside, alongside the ghost of her own father. Who had an affair with her aunt and had made unwanted advances to Anna in life. After months of exercising, and not the good kind, Anna's body deteriorated. She would vomit up debris, her head and face swelled, she refused to consume food or drink. Eventually, after months and years of exorcism, on December 23rd, the final day of the exorcism, the battle was won and Anna was freed, and by all accounts went on to live a fairly normal life afterwards. A Christmas miracle if there ever was one.
Japan is globally popular for its shrine culture and houses approximately 80,000 of them. The most important among all is the Ise Grand Shrine, which is a complex composed of many Shinto shrines centered on two main shrines. It is one of the most expensive temples in Japan due to its architectural grandeur. To maintain the Shinto traditions dating back to the 8th century, this temple is rebuilt every 20 years, and that comes with a very hefty price tag. Fun fact, unless you are a member of the royal family, you are forbidden to enter the hallowed halls of this ancient Japanese representation. However, tourists are free to roam the forest, including its ornamental walkways, but no stepping on the property. The inner shrine is dedicated to the worship of Amaterasu and is located on the south of the central, where she is believed to dwell. The shrine buildings are made of solid cypress wood and use no nails, but instead joined wood, so you can see how costs add up. The outer shrine is dedicated to the god of agriculture, rice harvest, and industry. Allegedly the home of the sacred mirror, this whole shrine is one of Shinto's holiest and most important sites. During the Edo period, it is estimated that 1 out of 10 Japanese folks conducted a pilgrimage to this shrine. Allegedly, a pilgrimage to said shrine flourished in both commercial and religious frequency. According to historical documents, 3.62 million people visited the shrine in 50 days back in 1625, and 1.18 million people visited the shrine in just 3 days in 1829, when the Grand Festival, that used to be held every 20 years, was held. Because the shrine is considered a sanctuary, no security checkpoints were conducted, as it was considered sacrilege by the faithful. The two main shrines are joined by a pilgrimage road to this day that passes through the old entertainment district. The chief priest or priestess of the shrine must be related to the Imperial House of Japan, and they are the ones responsible for watching over the shrine. According to my research, the current high priestess of the shrine is the daughter of the Emperor Emeritus Akihito, former Princess Sayako Kuroda. The mausoleum of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, has been buried deep underneath a pyramid for more than 2,000 years. It is one of the greatest discoveries of all time, but remains a mystery for historians and archaeologists. It was constructed over a period of 38 years, from 246 to 208 BCE, and yes, like I said, it is situated under a 76-meter tall tomb mound, shaped like a truncated pyramid, for being specific. The layout of the mausoleum is modeled on the layout of the capital of the dynasty, which was divided into inner and outer cities. The circumference of the inner city is about 2.5 kilometers, the outer is 6.3, and the tomb is located in the southwest of the inner city and faces east. So the main tomb chamber housing the coffin and burial artifacts is the core of the architectural complex of the mausoleum. But here's the thing, the tomb itself hasn't been excavated. We'll get into more why in a moment. Archaeological explorations currently concentrate on various sites of the extensive necropolis surrounding the tomb, including the Terracotta Army to the east of the tomb mount. That army served as a garrison to the mausoleum, and yeah, like I said, it has not been completely excavated. So, with all of that, the contents of the tomb are mostly sealed and unexplored, but you cannot go there. It is said that the burial complex comprises of a lot of things that the man buried there is going to need in the afterlife. So, to pay respect to the ancient site, the Chinese government has absolutely prohibited excavation of the tomb, making it one of the most forbidden places of worship in the world. The Plutonian at Hierapolis, or Pluto's Gate, was a Plutonian in the ancient city of Hierapolis near Pamukkale in modern Turkey's Denizli province. If I butchered any of that, I apologize, I practiced. Though the exact age of the site is currently unknown, the nearby city was founded around the year 190 BC by the king of Pergamum, Eumenes II. Back in the ancient times, people didn't dare to venture there because they believed it to be a very dangerous place. According to the ancient historian Strabo, nobody could survive the trip. After he visited the place, he wrote that he threw in sparrows and they immediately breathed their last and fell. Ritual animal sacrifices were actually common at the site. Animals, kind of like this, would be chucked into the cave and then pulled back out with ropes that had been tied to them. Archaeologists noted that the fumes emitted from the cavern still maintained their deadly properties, as they recorded passing birds, attracted by the warm air, died after breathing the toxic fumes. To this day. But going back in time, during the early years of the town, the castrated priests of Cybele, known as the Gali, descended into the Plutonian, crawled all over the floor to pockets of oxygen, or held their breath. Fun fact, carbon dioxide is heavier than air, so they tend to settle in hollows. Then these priests came up to show that they were immune. People believed a miracle had happened, and that therefore the priests were infused with superior powers, they had divine protection. That wasn't true, we'll get to the truth in a moment. To every surprise, the reputation was confirmed by scientists in 1965. This is when the site was officially discovered by Italian archaeologists, who published reports on their excavations throughout the decade. Following the studies carried out on the site in 1998, a geologist of the Italian National Research Council, Luigi Picardi, recognized that the origin of both the area and of the nearby Apollo's Oracle was linked to the existence of the surface trace of a seismic fault, which both sanctuaries were purposely built, and that's how we got the Gateway of Hades. So after measuring the CO2 concentration, they found out that at night, when the temperature gets lower, things get cooler, and CO2 becomes a lot heavier than air, it forms some kind of a lake on the bottom of the gate. But at dawn, the concentration reaches its peak, and any living being is gonna risk their life by getting there. Apparently, during daytime, the site's a little bit safer. The sun helps to dissipate the gas, but at the end of the day, it's just a small cave, just large enough for one person to enter through a fenced entrance, beyond which the stairs go down, and then you get all that gas from that underground geologic activity. So I wouldn't risk your life. In 2013, it was further explored by Italian archaeologists, and as part of a restoration project, a replica of the marble statue of Hades and Cerberus has been restored to its original place, because apparently that was there before. Pretty neat. Yemeni pilgrims are among the more than 2 million pilgrims that ascend regularly to the holy mount of Arafah to perform the major rituals of Hajj, the noon and afternoon prayers, both combined and shortened. Then they perform other prayers, they spend the night there, and then they return from there to Mina. So these pilgrim camps comprise 4 service centers, in which there's an integrated system of transportation and various logistical services that authorities have harnessed to serve them. And this has provided a great atmosphere, and all this sounds really great and swell and all, but where they tend to travel, you can't go. And even where they're from, you can't go either. So the area of Arafat is approximately 33 square kilometers, where more than 2 million pilgrims gather every year. And the largest pillar of the pilgrimage is standing on the mountain, and you can't have your pilgrimage without that. Why can't we travel anywhere that I've just mentioned? Well, the United States Department warns not to travel to Yemen because of civil unrest, health risks, kidnapping, armed conflict, and more. The embassy ceased operations in the country in 2015. There's no part of Yemen that is immune to violence. Military conflict has caused significant destruction of infrastructure, housing, schools, medical facilities, utilities, and more. On top of that, there's a lot of attacks. There's a threat of kidnapping. Also, Yemen has the world's largest cholera outbreak, which is throughout the entire country. So if you do travel there, that's on you. Finally for today, North Sentinel Island is one of the Andaman Islands in the Bay of Bengal, which also includes the South Sentinel Island. Now this island in particular, the north one, is a protected area of India. It is home to the Sentinelese, an indigenous tribe in voluntary isolation who have defended, often by force, their protected isolation from the outside world. Their population was estimated to be between 50 to 400 people in a 2012 report, which shows you how much we know. India's 2011 census was like, maybe there's 15 people, but once again, this is a wild guess. The islanders have been observed firing arrows at boats, as well as low-flying helicopters, all to protect themselves. And these attacks have resulted in injury and death, well, because people try to trespass. In 2006, islanders killed 2 fishermen whose boat had drifted ashore, and in 2018, an American missionary, 26-year-old John Cho, was killed after he illegally attempted to make contact with the islanders 3 separate times and paid folks to transport him to the island. Indian officials made several attempts to recover the body, but eventually it wasn't worth it. An anthropologist involved in the case was like, the risk of a dangerous clash was too great to justify any further attempts. I can't emphasize it enough. This region is strictly prohibited for visitors of any kind and is one of the most dangerous and forbidden places in the world.
Number 5. The Cult of Dionysus. The cult of Dionysus has sparked dark speculations and controversies over many years. It's a highly secretive organization, and knowing what exactly occurs within the privacy of members is unknown. Just to list a few of the many theories, here are some of the dark speculations and controversies surrounding the cult of Dionysus. Quote, excess and madness. The cult's celebration of intoxication and ecstasy led to accusations of excess and madness. Critics argued that the excessive consumption of wine and the frenzied behavior of cult participants could lead to a breakdown of societal order and morality, moral and social disruption. Many in the ancient world viewed the Bacchanalian and Dionysian festivals as a threat to established social norms. The rejection of traditional roles and the temporary suspension of societal rules during these festivals raised concerns about moral and social disruption. Bodily liberation. Some Dionysian rituals were associated with liberation and promiscuity. Some believed that these practices would lead to licentious behavior and the erosion of traditional family structures. Foreign influence. The cult of Dionysus was often associated with foreign influence and was viewed with suspicion by those who feared the introduction of foreign beliefs and practices into their culture. Accusations of political subversion. In some instances, the cult was seen as a potential threat to political stability. Rulers and authorities worried that the Dionysian festivals could be used as a cover for political subversion or rebellion. Mystery and secrecy. The secret and exclusive nature of some Dionysian rites gave rise to speculations and conspiracy theories. The mystery of religion aspect of the cult fueled rumors and concerns about what might be happening behind closed doors. Tragedies and harm. The association of Dionysus with tragedy in Greek drama led to the belief that participation in Dionysian rituals could result in real-life tragedies and harm. End quote. Though the speculations likely do hold some truth, being able to definitively answer whether any or all of these theories are true is impossible. Records of the cult's activity were often exaggerated through misunderstandings or misinterpretations of the cult's practices. But it is thought that many of the rituals have been spotted throughout history, hinting that the cult may not be as inactive as many think. Number 4. The Blackburn Cult. May Otis Blackburn's cult, which is referred to with many names, including the Order of the Doves and of course the Blackburn cult, was a controversial religious movement that emerged in Los Angeles, California. The cult's beliefs and practices were described as a combination of mysticism, apocalyptic prophecies, and unorthodox spiritual teachings. The cult was unofficially founded in the early 1920s, centering its teachings on the notion that May Otis Blackburn, their leader and founder, was a chosen prophet, selected by divine forces to guide followers through the impending end of the world. May claimed to receive direct revelations and instructions from angels and other spiritual entities. She warned her followers to prepare for the looming apocalypse, leading them into believing that only they would be saved from the cataclysmic events she spoke of. The beliefs also included select sections of witchcraft and mysticism, which actually led to legal troubles for May Otis Blackburn and her followers. In 1929, she, along with her son Raymond, faced a high-profile trial in which they were accused of practicing witchcraft and defrauding their followers. The trial received significant media attention and portrayed the cult as a group of radicals who manipulated their members for personal gain. May Otis Blackburn was a writer also. She produced numerous books and pamphlets to spread her religious doctrines and apocalyptic visions. These writings played a crucial role in spreading her teachings and attracting new converts to the Order of the Doves. Despite the cult's strange practices and legal challenges, it managed to gather a following during its existence. However, the relentless scrutiny from the law surrounding a certain body found under a house frequented by the cult and disturbed opinions from the public ultimately led to its disbandment. May Otis Blackburn's life took a quieter turn after the cult's dissolution, and she passed away in 1951. But to this day, it's not known certainly whether there are still practicing members, whether it be people who grew up in the cult or those whose parents raised them under the set of beliefs. Number 3. Order of Nine Angels. The Order of Nine Angels, or the ONA, is one of the most mysterious and highly controversial groups in the world of modern Satanism and the occult. The ONA was founded in the UK in the 1960s, promoting extreme and often dangerous forms of Satanism. Its core beliefs and practices are complex and unconventional, which has led to bouts of intense debate and controversy from Satanists and non-practicing communities alike. The heart of their philosophy is the concept of the sinister tradition, which is a radical, committed path that encourages members to challenge societal norms and embrace chaos and darkness. They view Satan as a symbol of rebellion against the established order, advocating for personal transformation through dark and sometimes harmful experiences. One of the most notorious aspects of the ONA is its advocacy for culling, a term they use to describe acts of harm and even Homo sapien sacrifice. Some of the ONS's writings are extremely dark and grossly disturbing, further demonstrating their deeply antisocial and extremist perspective. While they remain a highly secretive, tight-knit, and controversial group, their writings and philosophy have managed to spread widely and even found their way into other areas of the occult, impacting various forms of alternative spirituality. The Order of the Nine Angels remains a fringe and extremist organization to this day. Their beliefs and practices are widely criticized and condemned for their proud and loud promotion of harm and extreme extremism. As with any belief system, it's important to approach their beliefs with caution and to be aware of the potential harm and danger it can pose, especially if it's taken to the extreme. Number 2, Sachiko Ito. The bizarre and disturbing saga of Sachiko Ito, the woman who would come to be known as the Drumstick Killer, began in 1990. It all started when her husband suffered a back injury, which not only incapacitated him, but also led him down a very dark path of drinking and gambling, which ended up pushing the couple into very deep debt, which eventually forced them to sell their home and move to a different town. In their new town, they became involved with a religious group, which was deeply involved in spiritual faith healing. But their involvement didn't last long because they used the organization's name without permission and were expelled. This led to Ito's husband experiencing a mental breakdown and disappearing without a trace in 1992. With her husband gone, the descent into her heinous actions began. She moved approximately 100 miles north of Tokyo and started performing spiritual healings. Ito proclaimed that she was a healer and a psychic, gradually making increasingly grandiose claims. She eventually declared herself a god who possessed the power to drive demons out of people. These statements quickly attracted a large following of devotees who flocked to her for services. Ito's cult grew quickly, with over a dozen believers and their family members living in her home and participating in rituals. Her rituals, involving drumstick beatings meant to end the dirty body and purify the soul, quickly escalated in aggression. She accused some of her followers of being possessed by a bad fox and had them beaten until they were hardly alive. In June of 1995, less than 3 years after Ito moved, one of Ito's followers was hospitalized with severe injuries from a ritual. This follower also reported that her husband had abruptly disappeared after visiting Ito's house. This raised suspicions and led the police to search the premises, where they uncovered a truly horrific scene. 6 decomposing bodies, 2 men and 4 women, were discovered, some mummified and wrapped in futons. All of their lives were ended due to the harm inflicted during Ito's rituals. Ito, her daughter, and a man named Yutaka Nemoto and another follower were arrested and charged with the deaths. Ito's survivor, who had reported the cult, was also arrested. Ito initially claimed that the deaths were unintentional and were simply a part of a religious exorcism. The trial resulted in Ito receiving a life-ending sentence, while her accomplices received prison sentences ranging from 18 years to life. On September 27, 2012, at the age of 65, Ito was hanged after several unsuccessful appeals, hopefully ending the belief system that she created, but no one's quite sure. Number 1. Temple of the Black Light. The Temple of the Black Light, which can also be referred to as the Misanthropic Luciferian Order, MLO, which is what I will be calling it because it's the shortest name. The MLO is a group associated with left-hand path spirituality and philosophy. MLO was founded in Sweden in the early 1990s, and it has gained popularity in cult theorists for its unique approach to Satanism and the left-hand path. The central notion of the MLO is the self-created worship that they call Chaos Gnostic Satanism. What sets them apart from many other satanic groups, MLO's beliefs are rooted in a drastic form of nihilism and a deep desire to embrace chaos, darkness, and spiritual rebellion. Honestly, real. They believe in an intangible force called chaos, which they see as a destructive, creative, and transformative entity that has great power and aims to oppose the order and constraints of the universe. MLO's members revere Lucifer as a symbol of enlightenment, liberation, and defiance against traditional religious and societal norms. However, their interpretation of Lucifer is much different from popular depictions of him. To them, Lucifer represents a dark and chaotic force that opposes established religion and the moral codes of society. The MLO is known for its extreme and often controversial writings, which explore the esoteric beliefs of the religion in depth. Their texts often feature highly complex and cryptic symbolism, which is intended to be understood by those who are deeply committed to the group's philosophy, and not for those outside. I mean, that's a good way to reject skeptics. Like, if skeptics were like, dude, this text doesn't make any sense, the members could just say, yeah, well, duh, you wouldn't get it. You can't sit with us. The Temple of the Black Light is considered a highly controversial group within the broader satanic community as well. They are criticized for their extremist and nihilistic views, as their beliefs are not an accurate representation of traditional satanic traditions and beliefs, which normally encompass a wide spectrum of beliefs and practices. The Temple of the Black Light actually remains a small and secretive group that's still active to this day.